Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, after the series stretched through the Italian countryside at a place that has been historic, and as much as it is fast, we now take the journey across to the German edition of the Dash Off-Road Australian GT3 Limited Endurance Series. This is round number 4 of the Premier Endurance League for 2025, and of course the limited series means we return to racing action with both our challenge and elite class drivers. You're about to see 2 hours worth of racing action as these drivers go head to head around the Nurburgring Bez/WEC layout. And that means we are in GP configuration. Scott Rankin alongside of Reese Gardner and Pete Baxter in the booth to bring you the GT3 stars here tonight. And I tell you what, boys, this is Germany. This is a track that needs no introduction, Reese, because this is one of the ones that I think everyone aspires to master.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Grand Prix layout of the Nurburgring came to fruition in the early 1980s, and it's kept more or less the same general shape since then, albeit with the addition of the Mercedes Arena in 2003. Of course, it is sort of standing in the shadow of its big brother, the granddaddy of racing circuits, the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and you know, it doesn't always get its due credit, this Grand Prix circuit. It's a lovely, flowing racetrack, and it's definitely one that dates from the mid-'80s if you're driving around it. It's got that kind of layout. Geometric corners, there's some following of the terrain, beautiful flow in the middle part of the lap, and plenty of good overtaking opportunities, particularly down at Turn 1, the slowest of them all.
Yeah, and Pete, I mean, this place, it's just picturesque, isn't it? It sits in everyone's minds when they think of Grand Prix racing right the world over, but also that big old section out the back that certainly captures the imaginations of anyone looking to dominate the 24-hour scene right the way over the world. But the GP layout, fan? Not a fan.
Well, Reese mentioned the Nordschleife, but mate, I am a fan. I really, really enjoy racing this GP circuit. I think it's one of those GP circuits, you know, and again, Reese mentioned it's from the 80s, right? And sadly, the only reason it's not on our calendar now is because it doesn't have the ability to expand to meet current FIA standards, right? So we don't see it now. But what we get is, we get the equivalent of GP racing on a circuit that is suitable for, you know, cars are a little bit slower. GT3s are absolute, you know, the absolute prime example of it. It's got great overtaking. It's got great space. You can go 2-3 wide. You can miss an apex, hit an apex, and that's what changes your whole time around the circuit. You know, it has got overtaking zones. It's got places where you can draft. It's got everything that a GP circuit needs to have. And like I said, the only thing it's missing is some of the current standards for our current GP or Formula One cars. So for GT3, I think it's a fabulous circuit. Personally, love driving here in GP, guys, and I love driving here in GP and Nordschleife. So one of my favourites on the sim. Probably not number 1, probably number 3 for me, Scotty.
Number 3, I'm surprised. I will admit, I'm surprised by that because I know that this circuit gets your rocks off each and every year for the 24-hour. The amount of weeks this man spends in practice and preparation, Reese, is immense for the 24 hours of the Nordschleife. In fact, he's sat behind the wheel of a Toyota 86, and boy, if there's ever a frustrated Pete Baxter, it was getting run over and run over and run over in that Toyota 86. that was not a good year for racing action for myself and Pete. But anyway, championship standings now, and this is the Elite Championships, and well, there's a little bit of an update to talk about. Owen Coleman failed to finish last time out at Monza, and indeed, it wasn't his night to be. That has left us with a situation for the first time ever, at just after the halfway mark, we've got ourselves a driver with nearly a 350-point margin. Trent Allen, well, we've got 4 races to go. I think he's just about got it locked up, but the chasing pack are all there and amongst each other. Andrew Dutch was the winner back at Monza. I swear to God, somebody needed to check that car for sandbags out of the trunk. Because he definitely made the weight limit and then immediately removed them. Such was the speed of that car and his ability to cut his way through traffic. What's it going to look like for him and the rest of the drivers tonight as we get through the back end of qualifying and out the other side? It certainly remains to be seen. But 2 hours worth of racing action is preceded by 25 minutes worth of qualifying action. I can tell you there's actually not many cars left out actually on track, still turning laps as everything is locked in. Over in the Challenger Championship standings, or the AM class for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Harry Enwood leans the way from Jeremy Greentree. Jamie Saxon is sitting in third, but these guys are certainly a lot more packed up together. Brad Coates there and in and amongst it as well, still within spitting distance of hitting inside of that podium in terms of championship standings, so we'll have to keep an eye on those drivers as they progress. Jesse McMenamin actually had a great round last time out as well. He's jumped his way a long way up. But I think we are just waiting on the last qualifying laps to come in. But Easter is a time in Australia that is known for endurance racing, as the Bathurst 6 Hour put on one of the better production car races that we've seen. These machines, a fair bit faster here this afternoon, but Easter and endurance racing, it's nearly a match that goes together naturally, doesn't it, Pete?
100%, mate. I mean, the Bathurst 6 Hour was absolutely fascinating. I don't know about you, but I sat down and watched the whole lot. Let's talk about the race tonight. 25 minutes qualifying, you've already mentioned, Scotty. It's 120 minutes, so it's 2 hours of racing. 55% fuel tank tonight in terms of how much fuel they can put in the car. That equates to about a 35-minute stint length, Scotty. So for me, it is a 3-stopper race. And I can't even say that I think a safety car at the right time will turn into 2 stops. I think at 55%, we are definitely going to see 3 stops. If we get a safety car, we might get 3 stops, and the third is just a splash and dash without tyres, and that'll make it really, really intriguing. So, I think it's a great fuel level. It's one of those fuel levels that is not an easy 2-stop. It's not an easy 3-stop. It's got a bit of balance in between, and it's got a bit of adjusting depending on the safety car. So I'm loving the fact that the boys have chosen to adjust the fuel tanks for these guys. And tonight, the 55% will really test everyone. So looking forward to that tonight.
Righto, so we are down and through qualifying results at the moment. Drivers are sitting in warm-up or pre-race loo breaks. Well, what does that look like in terms of track conditions here tonight? I can tell you it is going to be clear skies for the next 2 hours. There will be no rain on offer here from the Nurburgring, but we are going to have a relatively cold track to match with that. Nurburgring at this time of year, starting to head into the early stages of spring as the track starts to warm up, but of course still quite a cold section of the world means those track temps are going to be rather cold. Overcast track conditions are certainly going to minimize those track temps, which means, Reese, what is somewhat of a little bit of a harder track on tyres, particularly that sector right there, the question asked of the driver is going to be a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things that always struck me about the Grand Prix layout compared to the Nordschleife is it's a lot more slippery. It just feels like the car has less grip in general on the Grand Prix layout, and I think, you know, a different composition of tarmac on this particular section of the facility. And so I'd be absolutely laughing if I got conditions this cool in a session I was in, because it means you can really attack these corners, and like you say, you won't have to worry too much about how the tires are going to go. There's a lot of high load corners around here, a lot of big changes of direction, which can certainly do a number on those tires. So any opportunity you get to preserve them, I'm sure the drivers will be happy for it.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at the moment. In fact, we're about 3.5 minutes away from the gridding up procedure, at which point we'll just have to fire through them as quickly as possible. What's the field size looking like here tonight for the fans watching along at home? I can tell you, we've got ourselves about 34 drivers. The number's actually down a little bit after Monza. So we will get the opportunity to actually fire through the grid right now. We're going to start it off with a driver who we weren't necessarily expecting to see at the top of the timing sheets, but Leith McClimate has managed to find some speed. He will take the pole position. Andrew Dutch, though, has managed to put that Mustang up on the front row after winning last time out. Good opportunity for him to bank a bunch of points. Rue Koistra finally back in action on Easter weekend, and he has picked up at least some chocolates starting off the second row of the grid. Alfonso Latella will line up to his outside. On row number 3, we're going to get ourselves Richard Mayer from the Speed Auto Sports Machine and Dan Piper in the entry Sim Sports Machine, 5th and 6th. These guys under 4/10 of a second back from pole position. Patrick Redden and Brent Tucker are going to be inside of your 4th row of the grid. Brent, the first of our challenger drivers here tonight. Glenn Allett, and James Mason are going to round out the 5th row of the grid, and then from there on back, Reese, you'll grab them from 11 to 20.
Yeah, such narrow margins for that top 3 as well, barely covered by 0.5 of a second. Adam Burhop's going to start in 11th place. His teammate at the AITT Revolution e-racing squad, Brad Coates, going to be the fastest driver in the Challenger class. Jamie Saxon right behind him there in the Acura, alongside Martin Hallinan in 14th place. On our next row of the grid, it's Nick Miller for Odyssey Racing in the Porsche. Trent Stapleton in the Mustang joins him on the 8th row of the grid. Matt Carrick for Riot Sim Racing alongside Rick Provenzal, one of the administrators here at Premier Endurance League. And the top 20 will be rounded out by Matthew Gerard and Jesse McMenamin from Frogleaf Juice Racing.
Yeah, 21st and 22nd is going to be Mark the Milkshake Man Foster. Alongside of him, the other head honcho over at Speed Auto Sports in 22nd is Chris Ruddle. Back behind them is going to be Glenn Jones and Brent Johnson. We're back in and amongst most of the challenger drivers here. Sean Benici out of 25th. 26th alongside him will be Greg Heaney. 27th is going to be that of Josh Swain, and Bobby Camo will be in behind him. And then at 29th and 30th, rounding out our top 30, will be Chris Withers and Jimmy Middleton, who was very disappointed. I got a message earlier today. Started from the pit lane, made it a bulk of the way through the field, didn't even register on the telecast. There you are, Jimmy. You're on the show. That's it. That's the last we'll talk about him. Love roughing him up. Go ahead there.
Indeed. Well, Isaac Curtis not setting a time in qualifying. Neither did Kurt Normanson or Stefan Mellis. They will bring up the rear of the field. We have our race control and safety car machines in the session as well for live race control if needed. Hopefully there won't be a big enough incident that a safety car is required, but it would certainly spice things up for the 2-hour race to come as the drivers are getting their final preparations in here in the warm-up session. Just touring through the arena section is the 152 of Chris Withers as he makes his way back out onto the part of the circuit that has existed since it opened in 1983. Just a few seconds remaining now, Scott, and we can get through into the race session. I'm looking forward to this. Such a narrow margin, like I said, for the top 3 positions on the grid. I think this is going to be a very competitive race.
Yeah, what I like about it, though, is that arena section, the Mercedes arena section, sort of goes from turn 1 through to turn 5, is brilliant because you can crisscross, you can drive it back at the other guy, but you've also got to try and preserve a little bit of tyre, so you don't want to overdrive it. You run down the hill into 3, and you can pull it up really shallow. You know, if you dive it in there late, you'll wash out a little bit wide, which means you've got no speed at the kink at 4. It's brilliant racing. What we have got for us is Pete, who's just been on a little bit of a jog, and I'm surprised we can't hear you panting, Pete, because you were quite active there, running up and down, chatting to all the teams. First and foremost, when's the next marathon that you're running? And secondly, what have you found for us?
Well, the next marathon's probably at the next safety car. What I did was I just went and had a chat with our pole sitter, Leith McClimate, and asked him if there was any secrets he would share. And he talked about maximising rearward brake bias and also full throttle through the Schumacher S's. Now, I've got to say, I think he's full of shit. But and it was probably more akin to the story about McLaren F1 and their drivers giving false messages. I think this is probably Leith giving false messages to anybody who might listen at the start of the race. So anyway, don't believe a word Leith says about rearward bias on your brakes and full throttle through the S's. Get out there, everybody, and have a good race.
I was actually going to say that. No, for me, that is actually probably the exact things I'd be saying. Secrets, yeah, rearward bias and full throttle through the S's. You won't be doing it on lap one. So, okay, look, I'm never giving you driving coaching tips, Pete. You'll come back and be like, no, that's hogwash. So we've learned that lesson. But that's what the field looks like running down the back straightaway before they get into the chicane. And worthwhile noting as well, this is the Bez Weck chicane, which is the more open layout. You can see the sharper chicane there, separated off by the cones. But Leith McClimate will have control of the field as the iRacing safety car feeds into the pit lane. 2 hours worth of racing. GT3s, multi-classes, the Pro and the AMs go side by side. Ladies and gentlemen, Premier Endurance Racing brought to you by Dash Off-Road. Here we go, 2 hours from the ring, the run to turn number 1, and already Dutch is looking for a little bit of the drafting assistance as he dives to follow McClimate on the run to turn 1. Here it comes, one of the widest sections of racetrack you're likely to see tonight. They'll use all of it, including the pit lane exit. Here they come, McLaren aggressive on the brakes in the background. Didn't quite see who that was, the DRE machine around the outside, but they managed to survive the top few rows through turn 1. Looks like the back of the field slided in there as well. I did notice Middleton to start for the pit lane. There is one car around at the very back.
Yeah, that's unfortunate to be sure. Bobby Camo starting from the pits, same for Jimmy Middleton as well. The car that turned around was Brad Johnson in the number 76, but he's kept up with the rest of the field there, as going very wide out of the arena was one of the Acuras or McLarens, I believe. Gently does it on your way down the hill. Mustang versus Ferrari on the exit there. Oh, you've got to be so careful through this layout of the circuit. It's a bit narrower than you expect if you're used to traditional Grand Prix circuits. What a shot, showing how close everybody is, and the dives round the outside to try and get it done at the southern hairpin. Traction on the exit will win.
Yeah, contact a little bit as well. There was the red car, looked like one of the McLarens, so it was a Ferrari of Brad Tucker. And I think it might have been Brad Coates that was just ahead of him that got to the inside, and his Acura tried to slice it down the inside and get the drive. Have a look at them as they're going to weave back and forth. Everyone's looking for a little bit of air as they get down here to turn number 11 out of the Schumacher S's. Then they get down here into 12. And the steam curves onto the back straight away. 3/4 of a lap in the book, the longest run before you'll stand on the brakes across the duration of the night. Then it's through this final chicane. You can cut it, but there's a slowdown penalty awaiting you for those who strike too much of the curbing. Don't stand on the curb on the outside out of the chicane as well. And then that last corner that just seems to go on for forever. It is a challenging driver's track, and this one is skill-based. Set up, sure, it'll help, but if you're not there, you're not on the marks, and you're not looking for the double back in the apexes, that is where the challenge comes from.
Absolutely. As Jamie Saxon trying to defend the position, Martin Hallinan around the outside going to protect it there from turn 1. The Porsche behind of Nick Miller all over the back of these two. And if you run side by side through these corners, you're going to be losing a ton of time. And a bit of a cork in the bottle situation as he tried to get around him, and Martin Hallinan gets turned around. He'll be none too happy with that. Has to wait for a gap, but oh my God, that is, that was a bit too close for comfort there.
Yeah, I agree thoroughly with that. Should have gone backwards, not forwards, and there would have been immediately a gap for him to feed back into, but wanted to just press the nose forward. So guarantee you they'll be having a look at that one nice and early. For the meantime, McClimate does lead from Dutch, so they've maintained status quo. Koistra, Alfonso Latello, Richard Mayer, top 5, top 6, all status quo. Down to Daniel Piper, the big gainer of the opening couple laps. Adam Burhop in the Mustang, 11th on the grid, sits 7th on the road, +4 inside of the top 10. So he's gotten in there at the cost of Brent Tucker, the only driver to start inside the 10 to fall outside.
Yeah, other than that, been reasonably orderly in terms of positions gained and lost. Yes, we have had our requisite dramas in the first couple of laps, but regardless, you have to say the race has gotten off to an all-right start for most of our field. Tucker going to be trying his best to work his way back forward, and at the moment, the Challenger lead still in the hands of Brad Tucker. Brad Coates, though, right behind him in the McLaren. This is going to be an interesting battle, and also Tucker has to take into account the battle between Mason and Reardon just up ahead of him, Acura versus Mustang. I love seeing the variety of machinery here and just how tall the Mustang is compared to almost every other GT3 car. Tucker having a little look up the inside as now Reardon looks like he might have a look as Glenn Arnott's having trouble.
Yeah, I was just having a look at Patrick Red, and he looked deep at run down to turn number 1 as well. So he was struggling to get the car pulled up. A lot of straight line speed. It was able to allow him a little bit of defensive room, but that's going to put some heat through those front tyres. You can't do that so many times without challenging. Look at the curb use as they pick up the cobblestones either side of the road through the arena section. God, I love driving around this place. It's one of those tracks that's really, really rewarding. When your first few laps you're out there and you're like, I just don't get it. And about 10 laps in, all of a sudden go, found it, know where the lines are now.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead, Pete.
So Stones, Jamie Saxon has picked up a 10-second penalty for that contact at lap 2, turn 3. One of the things that's really interesting, I was talking to a number of drivers before the race, guys. I thought I'd better jump in now and tell you, most of the drivers I talked to, they really just want to survive and get through it. And in particular, Fozzie, who, always one of my favourites because of his lime green car. Notably, I just want to get through turn 3 and 4 every lap, Pete, because I hate them. So to see other guys getting into trouble in turn 3 and 4, and Fozzie having a good time, I'm pleased he's been able to make it so far. On other news, I did have a chat with Dutchy. I know he's out there chasing Leaf for P1, Scotty, but he did mention that he was 0.4 of a second in front of you on the supercars at Mid-Ohio this week, and felt that you'd be a little bit further down the field if you're in the field here with him. So he was pretty comfortable where he was.
He has not stopped. As soon as he looked up that leaderboard and found that lap time, I've been getting messages every couple of days. Oh, look how far down the board you are. Get your skates on, brother. So, anyway. And update coming from the front end of the field. You might see it on the timing tower, but black flag, Richard Mayer had a slowdown penalty issued to him for cutting too much of one of the curbs, has failed to serve that in the 30 seconds allotted to have that penalty served, and will now have to, I believe that one's actually a stop and hold. It's not even a drive-through, is it?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Slow down serving penalties generally, I think, drive-throughs, but could be a stop and hold. I guess we'll find out for sure in the next couple of laps. So that's bad news for Richard Mayer, unfortunately. Running well in 7th and just not able to get the race going like he wanted to. But, it's one of those things about this circuit, right? In many places, it has those raised curbs like we're seeing at the southern section here. But when you get to the start and end of the lap, the curbs are wide and flat, and it's very easy to overrun those track limits.
Very easy to cut those chicanes and take liberties with the track extremities. By the way, fastest up the race thus far, Luke Hoystra, 54.943. Leith McCormick actually yet to set a valid lap time, so he has been certainly infringing upon the extraneous track areas and driving the wheels currently off the Lamborghini. It's been a while since we've seen a Lamborghini at the pointy end of this field, but the track is certainly more suited to the characteristics, and the headlights being flashed right there to Adam Burhop on Dan Piper, and he's going to have a go at him as he got the run off the chicane as well. That is not a common place to go for a move. The elbows are out, and McLaren on Mustang action. He might even set up a second of the Mustangs to come through. So I know that's the BMW Richard in the background.
Yeah, that was a very daring move.
That might put him in a bit of trouble. I think running somebody off the edge of the track to get a pass to happen is probably not something that's going to look done too kindly by Racing Trouble. Coming out of there. But Scotty, I've got my eyes on Richard. I'm going to try and get that answer to you, whether it's a stop and go or just a drive through. So I'm not sure either. I got a feeling it's a stop and go for him.
overhead shot. Keep your eyes on the cars at the top of the shot. And it was just bump and grind, bump and grind, bump and grind. They were on each other nearly the whole time. Would be, I believe, Adam Burhop's argument that occasion, Reese.
Yeah, I mean, he got on the power really hard, obviously. Wanted to get the best run out of the corner, but the McLaren wasn't tracking out as wide as he was and wasn't quite clear. So they came together, and that's what resulted in that contact. So, yeah, race control might have a look at it. There are some people who would argue that's probably just a racing incident, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the judgment is on that. Meanwhile, for the challenger lead, Brad Coates continuing to chase down Brant Tucker here. It looks like Brant might be dealing with a cork in his bottle here. Patrick Reardon has really cleared James Mason here, who it looks like has had actually made a pass on Brant Tucker very recently, earlier on in this lap. So now there's a bit of a pace difference between the two. We'll see if it works out in the favour of Tucker. You can see the weaving there from the Ferrari. I think 5 laps into this race, the tyres are definitely up to temperature. Maybe Tucker's just trying to get Mason out of the way, as it were, so that he can focus on his lines.
I was going to say, is that a message being sent about that one? And update, Dan Piper has now jumped onto the radio to race control, and Richard Mayer into the pit lane to have that penalty served. So he will be touring the 60 kilometers an hour down at the Nurburgring pit lane. And I can tell you Brad Coates is just about having a go at Brant Tucker as well. He was checked up a fair bit by Mason on the run of turn 1. So what you thought it might have been a tame opening to this race is coming a little bit undone in terms of edginess in the opening stanza. We're already 10 minutes into this one. Gee, that went by a lot quicker than I was expecting.
Yeah, certainly. I just went back to the previous lap and checked. Oh, it looks like there might be a slowdown penalty there for Coates, potentially. Don't usually see them getting on the brakes and letting people by like that, so we'll see how that affects the Challenger lead battle. But the pass that Mason made on Tucker down at turn 1 was nothing to write home about. It was your fully, textbook pass down the inside. Room was given. It was a clean move. Nothing more to be said. Richard Mayer, meanwhile, in the pits and serving that stop and hold, which costs you, I think, somewhere in the realm of 42 to 46 seconds. So that is a massive penalty to get at the start of a 2-hour race.
Absolutely, Reese. That was a 46-second stop and hold penalty. So more than just a drive-through, 46 seconds stop and hold.
Glenn Arnott's just had a big issue down over at turn 11. He's going to feed back in here. He's going to lose a bunch of spots. Now falls in behind Brant Tucker. And here comes Saxon to have a go at him as well. So he's going to lose another spot. And Coates is going to try and line him up. But that's where the hole eventually disappears as they dive their way through the chicane. Somebody's absolutely attacking the curbs at the moment. I just saw James Mason, the replay, showing us what happened. Touch of grass at the tip in port 11. Very easy to do.
Absolutely. That S-bend up the back half of the lap, see, it's still costing Arnott here. He's a little bit flummoxed, I think, and now open to attack from the likes of Coates here. Oh dear, goes a bit deep coming into the first turn and gets into the back of Jamie Saxon, and the front bumper is gone on Glenn Arnott's Acura. He is having a shocker of a couple of laps here.
Yep. And now he's just going to try and reassign it. That was deep. That was very deep. That was not on. That was not a hole he was going to find himself getting through.
No.
And unfortunately, Brad Coates has gone from towards the lead of the Challenger class, and now he's tumbling through the... He's got a job to do, and the next job is to get himself back into a rhythm and start picking off these drivers who's definitely quicker than. There's the contact.
Yeah, and then when they come around here, you'll see that Arnott, for some reason, just doesn't slow down at all for this next corner here. Dives it straight in up the inside of the McLaren and turning Coates around. And, well, race control are definitely going to be looking at that one.
100%. That one's not going to miss, but the trick of nature is that it's very easy to get in hot there. And he's only hot by a couple of meters because the corner doubles back in itself, and the racing line cuts back across the nose of the early apex line, so it looks a lot worse off board, I can tell you that for sure, than it actually was intended in the sim. That's not I have no doubts in my mind. There's no intent in that. That's just, unfortunately, when you get aggressive going down in there, it looks that way.
Yeah, I've certainly made that mistake myself once or twice. Very tempting to get on the brakes and get right down to the inside there. Well, meanwhile, things heating up here for the lead of the race. Keith McClymont still holding on to this one and starting from pole, leading every lap thus far. But Andrew Dutch is keeping him very honest in the Mustang there, and Rukoistra just behind them in the Acura. Keep an eye out for the Mercedes of Latella as well. This top four showing us how it's done around the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. They have broken away from the rest of the field, having a nice time out there. They are incredibly well matched here. They're basically running the same lap times as each other.
Yeah, like you said, I think one of the things we didn't actually point out at the start of the race is actually manufacturer makeup inside that top 10. There is actually a lot of, one of the bigger things we've been sort of seeing is actually a breadth in the manufacturer stakes, and that'll sort of tell a little bit more of the picture. Lamborghini from Ford, from Acura, before you get back to the first of the AMGs. Ford, it's realistically, it's all over inside of the top 10. There's just about every manufacturer right up there, which is, it's been phenomenal. We've been seeing that growth, that evolution of the GT3s massively over the last couple of years, and I think the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, there's no meta, as it were, in this series. Everyone's going for the car that they believe suits them best, and they're doing quite well with it all through the field. Keeping an eye on the 94 Mustang here. This is Trent Stapleton defending from Nick Miller. And then we have Matt Carrick and Matthew Gerard in the two Acuras behind, fighting over 13th place. Oh, hello. That's someone that's gone around at the exit there. That's Jamie Saxon.
He was on the radio a couple laps ago for the issue down at turn 1. I think the reason might have been there might be some damage to the rear end of that car. Chris Ruddle, of course, just picked himself up a slowdown. That might be for cutting the track to get away from that one.
So this is a pass from Stapleton. Actually did a very nice move on the number 29. This is how you get it done at the southern end of the circuit. But yeah, I think you're right, Scott. Saxon was the car that was run to the back of a little bit earlier there. And his issue that he had was the rear end just let go on him coming into the right hand, which wasn't ideal.
Yep. And, unfortunately for him, this shot will be out the other side of watching these guys all of a sudden come across the stricken car. Right?
Is it?
Clear.
Yeah. I think we might have been looking at the wrong thing there.
Yeah. But either way, Saxon's now fallen all the way down to 23rd, so consistency is going to need to be his next focus. But the benefit is 2 hours worth of racing. Excuse me, an hour and 43 ahead. This is the issue. There was a little bit of a wobble on the entry. I do wonder whether or not there might have been a touch of the grass on entry there as well, because it was very wide on the entry.
I looked at it on my end. He didn't touch the grass. So, yeah, maybe there was a bit of a margin involved in there, but I think just maybe turning in a bit too aggressively, rear end not quite responding like he wanted to, combined with the potential damage from the turn 1 incident, probably just all those little factors coming together to produce that.
Yeah. Provenzali, series admin, up and inside of the top 10 at the moment. At least the top 10 for the elite class. It's 14th on the track. Actually, he's moved up to 12th on the track. It's 14th at the start of the lap. So he's actually made some moves since the start of the lap. And one of those moves was around Glenn Arnott, who that damage definitely seems to be impacting his race pace. You can see the Acura, and he's actually on the pit lane. So he'll be the first of our cars. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, people are saying there was a splash that we're aware of to be added to the back end of the race, because we're only going to get about 35 minutes in terms of race time, or 35 and 35 in an hour and 10, and you've got 15 minutes to go. So this would actually get him in range of that getting to the flag.
Oh, that's tight at turn 1 there. Foster having to make way for the McLaren. Took a little bit of response there. Brad Coates trying desperately to make up some places here after he was unfortunately turned around at this very corner. Now he's going to try and get up the inside of the Corvette again at the exit of the complex, but loses out. Comes back under pressure from Glenn Jones. I think Brad Coates might be driving with a bit of red mist here.
Yep, he did actually just jump on the radio and apologise. So at least he's still reasonably level-headed, but he's trying to be aggressive to cut the way through. And for the meantime, this pack is just becoming quite bottled up against each other once again. So now they're going to have to try and find that release valve and who's going to be able to get their way to the front. Pete, once again, back with us with more news. I'm just hearing that Brant Tucker was on the radio. I think that's for the incident in the Eastern lap as well, down at turn 1, turn 2. So, either way, Pete, you got an update for us?
Yeah, hey, listen, I've just jumped in a couple of pits, and the call is that Adam Burhop's gone in for a early pit stop strategy, and this is a call by another team, by the way. And Glenn Einart's come in to, one, use his fast repair because he needed it as a result of that incident he had with Jamie Saxon, but he's also come in to cover off Adam Burhop because they think that that's the first of the 3 stoppers already happening. So we could already see the 3-stop strategy playing out tonight, boys, with Adam coming in and Glenn Einart coming in behind him. And I noticed Jimmy's pitted, but actually Jimmy hasn't. He's still behind Adam Burhop.
Yeah, so he started from the lane. That's why we're hanging a long way off the back end of the pack.
Yep.
And we've got another replay coming our way. 777 machine, and this is actually up for the head of the Challenger class at this point in time. So 777, remember, was James Mason, was inside the top 10. That is very wide. So those fronts start to pop a absolute beating down through there. So I'm starting to see that sort of behaviour. The cars, after about 20 minutes now, the fronts are certainly looking like they are a little bit over temperature and over pressure.
Yeah, also noticing that there's some gravel on the racetrack in the sort of rough area of the braking zone there, so maybe getting a bit of dirt on the tyres as well, just exacerbating the issue. Far from ideal for James Mason, but he'll find his way through and stay ahead of Tucker for the time being. Meanwhile, this battle continuing on. Brad Coates has found his way to the front of it, and Mark Foster in the Corvette now has to deal with Glenn Jones and Jesse McMenamin. Well, there's a reasonably clear track up ahead of Coates. He is carrying a bit of damage to his front left, as you can see, though. So we'll have to wait and see what his ultimate pace is here in that clear air. See if he has a chance.
Opportunity to punch away. Can he drive somebody away with him with that little bit of toe, or is all of a sudden Foster's pace start to recover now that he's got somebody punching the hole in the air? Because he definitely looks a little bit more racy compared to Glenn Jones. And that there is kitty litter. Great for managing the waste receptacle for your perfect little princess cat at home. It's not great on racetracks.
No. Unless, of course, you're driving a rallycross car, but this is far from that kind of machinery. Battle for the lead still on here, and it looks like the top 3 have compressed. Seems like Alfonso Latella has dropped off the pace a bit, and Keith McLymont having a little bit of a wiggle there on the exit of the arena, but Andrew Dutch not immediately jumping in to take advantage. You know, I think they're just in the holding pattern at this stage. It's a long race. They've got 2 pit stops, potentially 3, coming up for them. And, you know, I think if I was Andrew Dutch, I'd just be wanting to sit behind if I wasn't significantly faster than McLymont here.
Yep. So patience, patience, patience. The problem is, Rue has now driven up to them. He fell off a fairway, and actually just seeing another battle actually going on. I think Glenn Jones just got down the inside of Mark Foster. So that battle pack is continuing to rage as well. But you're right, he's just sitting there, he's comfortable to watch, and this is the one that I was talking about. Glenn Jones did get down the inside of the exit at turn 7, and the problem was that then checked him up a little way, and it has presented the opportunity for Jesse McMenamin to get back here. In the meantime, Brad Coates has taken the opportunity to completely skip clear of these guys. He is now not bothered by them in the slightest. But BMW versus Corvette, I think one of the only Corvettes in the field too.
Indeed. I mean, just looking at the lap times between these guys, last lap for Brad Coates was a 156.0, 157.2 for Mark Foster, and Glenn Jones a 56.9. So Yeah, big pace difference between these guys, and no wonder Brad Coates has skipped away like he has. Oh, that's a bit deep there for McMenamin, having to serve a big slowdown on the way into the final corner. Will bring him into the clutches of Chris Ruddle and Sean Benici, who rapidly arrive on the scene. News from race control: Glenn Arnott has been given a black flag, a drive-through penalty for that incident that we saw down in the arena section on Brad Coates.
Yeah, so that's quite a harsh, heavy-handed one. So they thought there was actually a fair bit more in it, which means the additional shots have given more context to that one than what we saw off board. Like I said, I remember talking about it all at the time, just going, yeah, it doesn't necessarily, just the shot we're looking at doesn't necessarily mean it's as bad as it can be, but it can be. It depends on what the other angles look like, and yeah, that's told that there is more to that story. In the meantime, having a look at this little pack around the 94 machine, Trent Stapleton at the moment, Carrick ahead of him, Nick Miller in behind. So Brent Tucker, I believe, leads the way in Challenger class, and then this one's got the battle for P2, and that is confirmation of the 15 car transiting through the lane to serve that penalty straight away.
So, move our attention up to the front here, and hearing some words here from our producer, and I can see it on the timing as well. There is no official best lap time that has been set for Keith McClymont, and that may mean that he's been getting off tracks every single lap so far. Now, that can be a problem. If you're half an hour into a 2-hour race and you're still racking up the incident points, you're going to fall into some trouble.
Yes, but the series here does run a slightly alternate rule set in that they wanted the drivers to aim for maximum pace, and then they'll police it with in-race stewards. So all track limits and issues are deemed by the in-race stewards. There is actually no incident point penalty. So what you're actually seeing is Leith maximising the racing track which he's entitled to, which is different. And therein, you know, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just different. I use that phrase a lot. Yeah, this is one of those cases where I don't disagree with it, I don't agree with it, I like watching it play out when the smart driver looks at everything that's on the table.
Hey, and like I say, Reese, and to give you the facts, mate, he has the most incident points of all the drivers in the field. He does have 19 incident points for 14 laps so far, so that could very well be at least 1 incident point per lap, and that's why you're not getting a lap on him whatsoever. The next closest driver has 16 points. That's Isaac Curtis and Jesse McCrenan. So there are a lot of drivers pushing out there. This is a track where you can get incident points pretty easy because you can go beyond the track limit. Yeah, and as far as what Scotty mentioned, I mean, I despise drivers cheating. I hate drivers taking the track limits. I don't like it whatsoever. However, I do understand what the lead does in terms of we're going for maximum pace and allowing the drivers to drive and enjoy it without feeling like they're constrained. So I get it. I don't.
Ooh,
That's
that's big.
Interesting.
The undercut is not typically the way you want to go if you're on a fuel save strategy. So that says to me that Dutch knows that these guys are going to be in the next 2 or so laps. Pete, what was the maximum? Do you know what lap number they were targeting for fuel range?
I don't know the lap number, but like I said, I think the fuel tank's maximum 35 minutes. I did have a chat with Dutch in the last 5 minutes. He said he wasn't really pushing to overtake Leith. He was just saving fuel. So I suspect what he's going to try and do is he's going to try and get in there, use the shorter fuel field to get into the 55%, use that as a undercut type driver strategy.
Yeah, and then he's going to pay that difference. He reckons once he gets clear, he'll disappear. But just no point making the effort on the track. It's just a little bit too risky, particularly early on. The tricky part for him is where is he going to feed back out in terms of track position as well. Down off the Jackson, he will be rolling. He's going to feed in just ahead of Chris Withers, who is currently sitting 23rd on the road, has yet to stop. So he will have some traffic, and that may be the little break that Leith McClymont and Rook Hoystra do actually need. So we've now got ourselves a strategy battle. One of those good old-fashioned races that isn't happening on the track.
Yeah, I do love me a good strategy battle as Nick Miller really pushing it hard across the curbs there. Matthew Gerard might find a way up the inside here. It definitely has a look, but door opening a bit in the middle. It's one of those corners where you can take multiple apexes, and it's not the end of the world if you're on the outside, so the Porsche stays ahead. Yeah, just on the subject of Andrew Dutch, he has crucially come out in, I think, as close to clear air as you can ask for while still coming out deep in the field. Greg Heaney is a few seconds ahead of him, yes, but that won't be affecting Andrew Dutch's lap times all that much. I think he's actually put his car in a really good position here in spite of pitting early and coming back out through the field.
I have to keep an eye on the trends at times. I think they're going to be quite critical, as Rui Coister immediately says, yep, I'm not going to hang around to find out what's going on here, and he is going to press on. So the difference in these guys' stops will be effectively -1 lap in terms of fuel. But yeah, so Coister should have a larger hole in that tank that he's going to try and fill. And depending upon any fuel saving, will offset those two. Would not surprise me to not see Rui necessarily go for a full fuel here just to jump ahead and grab some track position. So we'll see that play out in just a few moments. And that is the shot of Dutch out of the final corner. Now we await Rui Coister to come down off the Jackson to the exit of the lane. That is what they look like side by side. And Dutch ahead by moments.
Yeah, fair gap. It's bigger than it was when Dutch came into the pits, that's for sure. So, yeah, maybe a slight undercut being done there by Andrew Dutch, and yeah, coming out where he did definitely helped. If he'd come out and he was right behind Greg Heaney, if he was having to fight his way around a car on his outlaps, then it would have been a problem for him, but it doesn't look like that's the case. Fight's still going on here between Gerard and Miller, and this time, Gerard finds his way alongside at the southern hairpin, but look at the traction on the exit. The Porsche rocketing out of the corner. I absolutely love that turn. It's one of my favorite on this circuit for that exact reason. Someone goes up the inside, you're like, yeah, all right, fine. I'll just get on the throttle a bit earlier and make life harder for you.
Yeah, and he's still going to cover Gerard when they get down here to the next chicane. It's 11 and 12, but now it's all about rotating the car. You can just see that Miller got quite good traction, quite good rotation, and Gerard just had to baby the rear end, just wait for it to respond and line up for him. Now he's a threat. As here comes Brad Coates trying to shove the nose of the McLaren to the inside. He'll back out of this one. Forces Gerard to go a little bit deeper. And once again, the back and the forth from both of these guys immediately sees Coates to the pit lane. He's going to try and undercut the pair of them. Let you guys go off, have your battle. I'm going to sit here in the pit lane and breeze right on by.
Yeah, I would have done the exact same thing. You know, Coates coming up on those cars and obviously wasn't able to get the move done at the faster chicane that the Bez and World Endurance Championship layout uses. It's not as clear of an overtaking opportunity as the chicane used by Formula One, etc. So I think that was a smart decision for him to come in, try and make sure that he gets a good outlap and is able to get by them. Meanwhile, fighting going on here out of turn one. This is Audi versus Acura. Brant Johnson managing to keep Kurt Nommensen behind him. Remember, Nommensen started all the way down in 32nd. He did not set a qualifying time. He has had a magnificent night so far.
Driving his way through the field. It'll be interesting to see how that progress continues once we get a little bit. Remember, we're just, it comes with a few question marks because we are fuel strategy assisted at this point in time. So there will be a couple that will shake out. And hands some spot back. Chris Withers also into the pit lane. And he will get his Acura serviced as well. Will be now the last car running on the lead lap that has completed their first service.
You're in.
Here we go. Right, so we will finally get the answer to that strategy battle. Here it comes.
So, McClymont here finds his way down to the pit speed limit, only 60 k's an hour here. Andrew Dutch with a good few laps extra on him here, getting a few laps earlier. Alfonso Latella has also followed Leith McClymont in there as well, getting my K's and L's confused. Let's see what the pace is like here for Dutch and Coister. as they find their way to the final few corners of the lap. Climont up on the jacks, getting those tyres changed. And we will see how long of a stop this actually is for him. It was 45 seconds through the lane for Andrew Dutch, 46 through the lane for Koistra. McClymont is off the jacks and out of the lane here just as Dutch and co come up on him, and it looks like Dutch has taken the effective race lead. McClymont back to effective third.
Yeah, and he was very tight with Koistra at the pit lane exit, so he will lose that one slightly, but remember, he's gone 2 laps longer than Koistra, so if he's right behind Koistra, he's got 2 laps more fuel on board that machine, and he'll have 3 more on board than Dutch. Dutch has got to get the hammer down right now. That is critical time. Oh, then he's got pit stop time to Koistra. Never mind. Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
So McClymont lost out on the transit through the lane. It was only a difference of half a second, but that made all the difference.
No, gentlemen, I just come out with a chat with Leith. I had a chat with him while he's in the pit lane. He actually got a slowdown on the in-lap, so that's the bit that's actually cost him time. He's equivalent through pit lane, he's equivalent in pit stops, but you know, Dutchy come in and he had the shorter fuel stop, so that's jumped him ahead. But it was a slowdown on the in-lap that's actually put him a little bit behind. So he's now under the pump. He didn't really want to talk too much. He's concentrating pretty hard to race at the front.
Do you know if he ran that tank dry? I think it's quite critical.
Wouldn't tell me, but I think he did.
Yeah, I would assume he did as well. That was my take on it. But yeah, okay, so that gets us to the end of sort of 34 minutes, not even quite the 35, but remember, we had a formation process as a part of that one, so there may have been the potential to get the extra lap here. Now they're all starting to form on in. Dan Piper has moved back to head the race, so he was on the fuel save a little bit in the early phases of this one. And critically, Climate has lost a little bit of touch. I wonder whether or not he might have actually stapled fresh tyres into that machine, because he's a touch slow at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he was up on the jacks in the lane. It can be done. But yeah, I don't know why you would change tyres at this point anyway, as Koistra is going to go firing up the inside of Andrew Dutch to take the effective race lead here. That is a big statement.
Yeah, that was a big stand. But he got aggressive with it. Confirmation, car was on the jacks, and I'm pretty sure I saw Dutch on the jacks as well. So whether or not at the moment, whatever Rue's done in that pit stop, he has got a lightning quick Acura underneath him, and he's immediately stretched that margin as well. So Dutch goes from needing to press on to all of a sudden he needs to go back a little bit in conservation mode.
Yeah, this is really interesting here from Rue Koistra. He has taken the gloves off now after the first pit stop. The top 3 still shadowing each other on the racetrack as it's a raft of pit stops all the way through the field. Josh Swain and Isaac Curtis in there. Jimmy Middleton also visiting the pit lane too. The only car that hasn't pitted yet is Jesse McMenamin in the number 79. Everyone else has toured through the pits at least once, be it for a penalty or a scheduled stop or otherwise. So this is where we're going to see the state of play for the middle phase of this race.
I'm pretty confident McMenamin should be with the pits this time, so we should see this strategy cleared. Mason's had a boo-boo on the courts at the moment, and that is Rick Provenzali, who is just forced off-road, and that will be a slowdown penalty for Provenzali as well, so he'll probably try and re-drive back in. I just wonder, it might have been Cold Drive getting away from him. Yeah, just couldn't quite get the turn in on the exit.
Well done to keep it out of the wall.
Yeah, just barely, my word. So a little bit scared, a few spaces drop, and confirmation that McMenamin's into the lane. We'll hand back over race lead. Rue Koistra, she's all yours, buddy. Let's see what she's got.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race so far, 154.8. That is some stonking pace there from Rue Koistra. Andrew Dutch only able to set a 156.2 on that previous lap. That's some pretty crazy gaps in timing there, and it might bring Leith McClymont back into the battle for second. So what we know from this is that Andrew Dutch obviously took that fuel stop a little bit earlier, so he's going to owe us a bit of a longer stop next time he comes into the lane. So just keep that in the back of your head for the time being as we check out the battles further down the field. I believe Richard Mayer here up ahead of the McLaren. Richard Mayer still in P11. All things considered, not a bad run, but he did have to spend that long time in the pits just earlier. Benici versus Saxon, meanwhile, for P10, but Benici is focused on the front leak juice car of McMenamin, who has come out just ahead of them.
Yeah, so McMenamin running longest, will have the shortest fuel bill to pay on that final stop as well. So small advantage there for the Frog Leap Juice Racing driver. In the meantime, that is coming up on 1/3 race distance, and it's been frantic. It's been hectic. There's been a fair bit in that opening stanza. And now we'll look to the chorus to give us the core of the racing, Pete.
Hey Scotty, I just come back from a little bit of a chat with Brent Tucker, our leading Challenger class driver right now, currently running P7 outright, which is outstanding in this field, right? Brent he said he hadn't done a lot of practice, knocked off at 54 in qualifying, was over the moon, and is just driving for his life right now, just trying to stay in there. I sat with him through a pit stop, and whilst Jesse McManaman, who was leading the race for a little while, come in and did his pit stop, and we watched Jesse fly by in the pits. And Brett, a little bit settled. I don't want to give him commentator's curse, but absolutely ecstatic where he's at. I think he's doing a brilliant job. Doesn't expect to be there, or didn't expect to be there at all where he is, but to be in the top 10 in this field. One of the things that was on his mind was what happened with Jamie Saxon. So once I gave him that little bit of info about, broader picture of why Jamie Saxon shot down the field a bit. He's a little bit surprised, but he's out there and fairly well focused, but in a pretty relaxed state of mind. So hopefully the commentator's curse doesn't go anywhere near Brent, and he can continue to the race. He's doing a wonderful job out there and leading the Challenger class right now. A few positions ahead of Trent Stapleton, and that is genuinely for position after pit stops on. So that's great racing.
Yep. And for the Challenger class driver, sitting 7th overall at the moment as well, so he'll be very, very happy with that one. He's about 4 seconds off the next driver ahead of him, and he's got Afonso Latella attempting to go with him at the moment. We're keeping an update on Brad Coates, just with the wars his car's been through at the front end. There was a few panels with larger gaps in them than they were at the start of the night. That's okay. That's what race tape's for at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Also looking back through the field to, you mentioned Latella falling back to 8th overall after his pit stop. Remember, he was running in 4th for a long time. And I'm looking at his pit stop, and it doesn't seem like much went wrong. He was a couple of seconds slower through the lane and maybe a little bit longer through the box than the other drivers up at the front of the field, but I think something else may have happened to Alfonso to put him a bit further back there, maybe a slowdown or two.
They're very easy to get on the way to the pit lane, because you're thinking about your pit lane entry, not the chicane sometimes, because you've just got the eyes a little bit too far down the road. So you don't necessarily connect the dots, and then you've also got to make sure you make it into the lane safely and inside those white lines as well, which is tricky given that you're crossing over effectively curbing, which is disastrous in the wet. It's horrendous. Try and get that car parked up. So whether or not that was on his mind. Matt Carrick, by the way, 17th at the moment to 9th after the pit cycle strategy, so he's doing phenomenal. And Provenzali, 18th to 11th, he's also +7. So a couple of drivers doing quite well.
Well, the issue from Matty Carrick's perspective was, normally, Scotty, you'd know that there'd be 3 to 5 Riot sim racing drivers in the race, but he's on his own tonight. He is in the Discord, he is on his own, he's got no spotter, he's got no other drivers in the race, he's got no one to protect him. He is out there just doing it for the Riot sim racing team on his own tonight. So that's an interesting one from the Riot boys to leave Matty on his own.
Either way, I think one of the things is that Easter is definitely a lower car count, unfortunately, tonight. I think Easter and families have drawn quite a number of drivers away. But
yes.
albeit for Matt Carrigan inside the 10, he'd still be happy with that at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a strong drive thus far. And in a race where it seems the events have been defined by who can keep it the cleanest, who can avoid making the mistakes, Carrig has so far avoided the worst of it. Check back in with Jamie Saxon, who we thought was a shoo-in for that Challenger class lead. He has been forced to fight his way a bit further up here. Got Sean Bonici right ahead of him, and McMenamin now falling behind Martin Hallinan and Glenn Jones. This battle for 6th place in the Challenger class, which ultimately is going to be for 17th overall. So these guys are solidly in the midfield. They've got a lot to think about here as they find their way through the arena section. You can see that Saxon is being very aggressive on the way into the corners here. He's carrying that speed in the Acura. We'll see if it works out for him.
Charging in, certainly putting some pressure through those front tyres. Track temp's not really climbed all that much either. And in fact, we're actually expecting it to dip towards the back end of this race, 5:15 p.m. sim time. So this is going to be the hottest it's likely to be. And if they're starting to experience some issues with front tyres, it's not going to get any better for them, unfortunately. Again, drivers dipping tyres off down at turn 7. He's just pressing on a little bit. The race just pretty standard, you would say, for GT3 racing. Everything just sort of reaches a little bit of a lull here in this next period of the race as everyone sort of starts to figure out how they're going to connect the dots. That'll be the next 10 or that'll probably be the next actually 20-25 minutes or so as the race just breathes a little bit. Pressured up and it breathes a bit. Pressured up, breathes a bit again. It tends to be the way that this format of racing goes.
Yeah, I do like that. Good old ebb and flow. Allows you to just take stock of the situation as it stands. Situation up at the front is truly in the favour of Rue Koistra. And he's continued to keep that fastest lap. Distance between our top 3 has increased a bit. We thought for a moment that Andrew Dutch would be falling into the clutches of Leith McClymont, but looks like there's a bit more distance between those two now as the battle for 6th in Challenger continues. Hallinan almost faced a challenge from Glenn Jones coming into the first corner there. But the BMW for now stand behind.
Ooh.
That's a spin behind. I think that's Saxon. Saxon with another problem.
Indeed it was. There's the Acura, the 418 going around yet again. So he's just having some problems with the rear end of the Acura at the moment. His middle point of the stint that he's struggling with, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Tricky part will be, was there any contact in it?
It doesn't look like there was any contact in it. You'll see here, and this is something that I've had happen to me quite a bit when I've been driving around this place. You turn in for turn 2, and you realise, oh, I've turned in a bit too early. I'm going to run across the grass. So he has a couple of goes at the steering there, and that's just too much for the rear end to handle, and it goes on him.
Yeah, just going to be consistent. Unfortunately, you just got to ride it out and just be compliant with the front end. Try and keep the rear end underneath you. And yeah, unfortunately, driver error. So nothing further in that one, but this is the real battle pack on track at the moment, isn't it? Just these guys have just been at it since lap 1 and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, they are in lockstep. Hallinan still keeping everyone honest at the front of this pack in that McLaren. I say it every time I watch a GT3 broadcast. I love the difference in profile of the cars. You know, balance of performance makes these cars pretty equal on pace, and we're seeing the proof of that here. But every time they come onto the straight and you see how low the McLaren is compared to the BMW, what must it be like having that thing in your mirrors bearing down on you?
Well, it should run a heck of a lot cooler, that BMW. There's a lot more front end of it really to take air in, so you would hope. But I actually got to see some of the GT4 McLaren in action, and some of the benefits and some of the problems with it a while back. And air intake actually was one of its strengths. But the problem is the McLaren GT4, in a weight saving measure, the radios are actually made out of plastic, and they're right in front of the wheel well. See that little arch of the BMW just in front of the wheel well? What's going on here? This is the Merc front end of the field, which I believe was
That's Latella.
one machine. Latella was. We've got to say, I'm sure it was Latella. It was in the Mercedes. Indeed, he was. Picks off another spot. Gets that one done. Starts his progress back forward. But yeah, the difficulty with that is wheel-to-wheel racing. The side-to-side contact you get when you're door-to-door with somebody, well, that just puts a wheel straight into your radiator, which is made of plastic. So they're nice, they're light, they're in a really cool location to get extra air into them and not clog up the front end of the car. But unfortunately, it just means you've got to be a lot more careful with where you position the car. So that's therein lies the intricacies of the layout and the ways that the different manufacturers go about applying the car.
That's what I love about GT racing, the difference of approach by these manufacturers. Just comparing the lap times there for Koistra and Dutch, you could see that Dutch was a bit faster, but going through those sectors, it seems like Koistra is really making up the bulk of his time. Actually, Dutch is making up the bulk of his time there in Sector 2, which is the twistier of the two sectors, of the three sectors, sorry. So Koistra evidently having some good straight line speed on that Acura, but performance through the corners may be lacking a little.
Well, it's naturally aspirated V8 versus what, twin turbo Acura. So
yeah, I mean, V6.
Yeah, twin turbo. I was about to say V6 because I was thinking of the V10s that are in the Lamborghini and the Audi, but yeah, no, it is the 6 on board the Acura, with the Japanese manufacturers tending towards that more V6 style powertrain. But yeah, it'll be the turbos really spooling up, it's giving it the poke at a slow line, straight line. But yeah, just interesting to see that the Mustang is actually the one that's making up the time in the corners. With that I find to be quite interesting, because that's normally not the attribute you expect out of the front engine cars.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show balance of performances. Whoa, God! Oh, righto. The 152 of Chris Withers there, going very deep into the final corner of the arena section as he tries to psych out Stefan Mellis there. Yeah, it's something that I've noticed occasionally. You know, the balance of performance changes every so often, just as iRacing does patches and brings new cars in, has to balance their performance with all the existing cars, etc. Sometimes you do get that case where the front engine cars are actually really good through the corners, and the mid-engine cars, and sometimes even the rear engine cars of the Porsche, they tend to suffer a bit through those turns. Meanwhile, looks like drama, a little bit of drama there in the battle for 6th in Challenger. Glenn Jones gets past Martin Hallinan, but not without a little bit of biffo, and Hallinan immediately responding there at the Schumacher S.
That was brave to go through there. Somebody needed to back out, and Glenn Jones decided he was going to be the driver that backed out. Second round of pit stops already occurring as well. Burhop and Glenn Arnott are going to be the front takers on this one, because remember, they were one of the early takers on an early strategy as well. I was just about to say, yeah, it's also worthwhile noting to those of you who are not following the physicality of these cars around. What you're going to remember, actually had a cracking chat with Jaden Ojeda, who ended up finishing second at the 6-hour day, about GT3 machinery. Remembering he's racing out of Craft Bamboo at the 12-hour. Spent a fair while talking to him about the difference in the cars. He said, well, actually, as much as you look at the Mercedes, it's actually not a true front-engined car. The Mercedes is actually what they term a front mid-engine car. And the reason for that? The engine is actually behind the front axle. That big long nose is all intake at the front end.
I love that. Absolutely love that. It gives me the vibe of You remember the Panos LMP1 car in the early 2000s? They were the only LMP1 to try and go for a front engine layout, and also the ill-fated Nissan GTR LMP1. They were front mid-engined as well. It's just better for weight distribution if you put that engine in between the axles in some way. And yeah, sometimes it can make your car look like a caricature of a 1930s roadster, but definitely works for performance.
Yeah, and there is the difficulty. As in particular, I think it is as the downforce steps up, you actually want the engine in between the two chassis. But when the downforce is actually lower, that's where you want the engine to be actually extended further away from the centre line of the chassis. And quite the criticality of those of it for those who aren't engineers. Actually, we're lucky enough that we do actually have an engineer in the commentary box. Pete, this is probably where we drag you in to just explain the physics of this. But I believe it's more downforce, more centrally located in the engine, less downforce. You want the engine to actually swing, apply weight rotation. Would that be correct?
So in a lot of cases, the aim is actually to lower and centralise the centre of gravity of the whole car. So your placement of the heaviest item in the car, which is the engine, you try to place that, and then you've got to balance that with your gearbox and your diff and the other things that weigh a lot in the car to try and get the centre of gravity as low and as centre to the car as possible, because the lower in the centre you get it, the better you get in terms of the ability of the car to grip without rolling. So that's the pure engineering of it all. All of the different manufacturers have their different ways of doing it. So whether they're a front engine car, they push some of the other weights further backwards. But also, front, mid, and rear engine cars also have, quite different characteristics in terms of how they drive into corners, mid corners, and outer corners. So there's a lot that goes to it.
One of the things that's probably actually worthwhile tagging into that is also wheelbase. That's quite critical. The longer the wheelbase, the more stable you are for traction, but the less rotation that you have. So the shorter the wheelbase that you can get, generally the better rotation, but less space for you to package an engine and a transmission and all the chunky items down low and in between the axles as well. So that's what we see. Bobby Commode picked up a 5-second penalty a few moments ago from race control, and this is how he came away with it, I believe. That's actually Series Admin Middleton ahead of him. Very late lunge to the inside.
Yeah. It's so tempting to go up the inside there because the track keeps turning left on the way into that braking zone, and so in your mind that opens up the inside of the corner for a dive, and you know that you'll be able to hook it up as a bit of a double apex affair to get the run out. So it is a very popular passing spot, but sometimes you can be too aggressive too late into the corner, and that's when race control gives you a little rap over the knuckles.
Hey, you've been a bad boy, but not so much that you're going to transit pit lane, is what that one said. Don't do it again, but this one was not up there amongst the most egregious that we've seen here tonight.
And keeping an eye on Martin Hallinan here and checking back in with the conditions. There is a bit more sunlight on the circuit than there was when we started the broadcast, but the track temperature gradually decreasing down to 23 Celsius as there is some gravel that's been thrown up and some field tracks. Looks like someone's had a bit of an issue ahead of these guys, but it'll be far from their minds for the time being. They'll keep focusing on the braking and turn-in for some of the most fearsome corners on this layout. Plenty of tarmac runoff, of course, so you're able to gear the car up a bit for that, but all about the exit. And for now, it seems like the McLaren here has the measure of everyone. It's just some really consistent pace here from Hallinan.
Yep, so he's now starting to press a little bit further forward the front end as everyone starts to drop away. And for the moment, we'll jump back up front because the gap is starting to widen. Well, it was actually starting to, well, actually, sorry, it was widening, and then all of a sudden Dutch has managed to just grab nearly a half a second back on that most recent lap. So he is up there and he is challenging, but that margin at the last time our timing strike was 2.4 seconds. At the moment, the midpoint of the lap's down to about 2.25. So, and remembering quite critically that Dutch does have about 1 second fuel difference he's got to pay. So, position-wise, Coaster is in a great spot at the moment.
He certainly is. I was checking back over that last lap of his to see exactly what happened to lose him that 4/10, and it doesn't look like anything untoward happened to him. So I think it might have just been a little blip, maybe just getting comfortable in the lead of the race for the moment. Because you're right, things are going very well for him right now. Managed to get that lead through the pit cycle, and he's got a good car under him, consistent pace, and he can afford to take a bit of a rest and focus on what's to come. Still a fair way away from seeing the second pit stop for our drivers up at the front, and the gap at the line 2.2 seconds between himself and Andrew Dutch.
Yeah, Reece, I'm not so sure, mate. I reckon we're in the second pit cycle window now. I'm potentially anywhere between now and the next 12 minutes. So probably the next 4 or 5 laps with the cars on track, we're going to see the second pit stop occur. I think we've already seen a couple of guys come in, and they were the two that pitted very, very early. That's Adam Burhop and who was that? Somebody else, Richard Mayer, come in quite early. Also Glenn Arnott come in, and they were two of the guys that come in very, very early. So they pitted on what I thought was the absolute extreme earliest they could have to get away with one more stop. And I thought they probably, without a safety car, at the risk of actually having a splash and dash before the end. So we'll see how it goes, eh?
Yeah, well, what you got to consider as well is that for Arnott and Mayer, they had issues outside of their strategy that basically forced them to visit the pits early anyway for penalties or for damage or whatnot. So I think if you're put in that position right at the start, just try and run that strategy in reverse. Take your stop right when you need to, and you can try and gear something up for later on in the race. Meanwhile, side by side on the exit of the hairpin, car number 94, Trent Stapleton, has got quite an angry looking pack behind him. Rick Provenzale running a little bit wide there through the Schumacher S and very unstable on the exit. Mason potentially sees an opportunity but decides to back out of it. Provenzale going deep into the left-hander. This is going to get interesting very quickly, I think, Scott. Look at the exit that James Mason got just then.
And I think he's going really well. I think it's good to see again. I mentioned this before. I like the fact that Ricky is in the race rather than just driving from the back of the grid to measure everybody. I love the fact that he's in the race mixing up, and because everybody else gets to measure themselves against Ricky from a fair dinkum perspective. And the good thing is, he's stuck there fighting, mate. He's not leading this. He is right in the middle. He's sitting there in P. He's jumped from P6 because Dutchy's come in for his pit stop. There we go, 1 hour and 1 minute into the race, so we have 59 minutes to go. Dutchy's come in for his second pit stop. He was the first of the leaders to pit to start with, so pretty sure he's still pretty comfortable. Sorry, not even sure. Comfortable he's still on a 3-stop strategy. He's probably going to make up some of that time he gained in the first pit stop by filling up here. I think we'll see Leith come in another lap or two, and again, we'll see how they go when they come out. But if Leith doesn't have another slowdown, we'll see if that changes up. But it looks like Dutchy's in a good spot.
Yeah, and some drama there as Provenzale gets past Stapleton, not without a little bit of issue through the arena section. It looked like the Mustang was really on the back foot all the way through that section. Rick Provenzale aggressive on the way into the corners here. Mason still not able to get past him in spite of all of that. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that battle. We'll also keep our eyes peeled on Rook Hoystra and Andrew Dutch as their second pit stop stats are up now. Dutch a little bit slower through the pit lane and a slightly longer stop as well. That is the debt that was paid from his shorter initial stop there. So like you say, Pete, it's time to see how McClymont responds to that. For now, though, keep our eyes on this battle for fourth, because it's provided some great entertainment.
Oh, I don't think the entertainment's going to go away whatsoever. But I am going to say, Rue Cloister is standing out to me tonight. Like, in a lot of these races that we've watched in the last few seasons, Rue's been mid to back pack. So to see him up the front is absolutely fantastic. So he's having a wonderful run tonight. The one thing is that Mum Cher's not on the YouTube chat, and that's what I'm missing. I would love to see Cher on the YouTube chat while Rue is leading. And it's a shame for Rue that she's not, because she's a wonderful bird to actually interact with on YouTube. But anyway, Rue, get out there, give it your best shot, go get them, and race hard, mate. All the best.
Yeah, indeed. Well, now Mason's coming under attack from Stapleton. It was a bit of a poor run through turn 2 there, and we'll keep our eyes peeled for any further developments in this battle. See if there's any kind of response from Stapleton there, but Provenzale has now broken free of these two, and we'll see if he'll find his way a bit further forward. Rick, of course, with a great run up through the field thus far, started at 18th, and well, of course, we have to keep pit stops in mind. I think he's about effective 7th right now, considering we still have Rue Cloister and Andrew Dutch out there down in the field, having just completed their second stops. Still no response from McClymont at the end of this lap. No, I will correct myself immediately. Comes into the lane, and now the battle will re-emerge. Let's see what the pit stop is like for the Lambo up the front.
Yeah, I'm expecting these pit stops, Reece, to be even across the board, and the delta between the pit stops is going to be made up in the last one, right? I mean, ultimately, that's where you want to sort of save fuel for, is the last pit stop, so that you don't need track position now. You need track position at the end of the race. So you save that advantage you have until when you can execute. And given the fact that we've got a fairly spread field now, a fairly open race with, dare I say it, limited risk of a safety car, dare I say it, I think Rue's in a great spot at the moment. I think it's even pit stops for everybody on this one, and then I think the catch-up time is actually the last one.
Well, Rue Cloister goes back into the lead as McClymont is out of the lane, and he is out behind the both of them, and he's actually fallen back into the clutches here of that battle for 6th spot in the Challenger class. Still owed a stop from these guys, but this is difficult for McClymont, coming out in a bit of traffic, and he's obviously going to be quicker than these guys, but will he be able to take advantage of the newfound pace straight out of the pits here with this McLaren ahead of him? Hallinan certainly been putting on some great drives recently, but he can probably be looking at Andrew Dutch up ahead and just see him get further and further away.
Yeah, look, this is the downside. We don't have this level of engineering and oversight and timing that they have in Formula One, that they can predict the pit stop and where they come out. And unfortunately, Lee's just come out in the middle of what has been a battle race long. And I think essentially that might cost him over the next 4 or 5 laps, or until these guys come in and do their pit stops, because none of them have come in and do their pit. They all pitted on lap 17 or 18, so they're all due on the next lap or two. But even getting held up for a lap might impact the rest of his race, and just put him a little bit further back that he mightn't be able to come back on Dutchy and on Rue Cloister. But I tell you what, mate, Rue Cloister is he is ticking the boxes for me tonight. He is just flying.
Yeah, indeed. On board there, and Brant Tucker just up ahead. Looks like we've... that's a big problem for Chris Withers. That is huge. Front-end contact with the wall. Absolutely slipping through the Schumacher S, as we have another couple of drivers coming in for a stop. It looks like Stapleton's come in the 94 Mustang. We have Alfonso Latella taking his second stop too, and Patrick Reardon is in there as well. So fall back into the midfield. Latella, obviously with some problems in and around the first pit cycle. So we'll see if he can get something back from here, as it looks like he is already out of the lane, but 50 seconds through the lane. It has not gone well on the pit stops for Alfonso Latella.
No, it seems a bit slow, but I'm just trying to get his pit stop was only 24.1, so his stop time was no bigger or no greater. Same as Glenn Jones, same as Leith McClummett, to be honest. So it's a full tank pit stop. So yeah, maybe he's run foul of another slowdown on his in-lap or out-lap, and that's what's caused him to prepare.
Yeah, maybe. Incident we just saw here. Oh, this is rough here for the 169. That is tough. Yeah, true, but it looked absolutely frenetic there for the driver. I'm trying to pick who it was there. Matthew Gerard. Yes. Apologies. Yeah. So he's obviously had a couple of problems on his way around the lap here, but find himself behind Leith McClymont there. Rick Provenzali and James Mason moving up to second and third in Elite. Still waiting for a pit stop from those two, but they are 17 laps into the stint, as are the rest of our current overall top four, including Brant Tucker, who continues to lead the Challenger class here. And I'm expecting them to come in at the end of this lap.
Yeah, and these are the guys that were running strong on the fuel strategy. They were looking to try and take the race as deep as they possibly can. They will lose a fair bit of track. Have a look at the difference in the Porsche headlights there. They're not on yet. But out of the car in behind is, and that'll be James Mason's Acura. So I'm just wondering, somebody want to get down there to Porsche and tell them to flick their sensors over into nighttime mode?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that Nick Miller has the daytime running lights on his car. Speaking of, car behind him just spun, and seems like there's been no shortage of trouble.
Stapleton, no.
Yeah, Stapleton just come out of the pits, and unfortunately, I think a bit too deep into the last corner of the arena section, and the rear end went on him. Looked like it was already gone at that point, and then just spread eagle across the racetrack, got out of the way just in time.
Perfect. And that's it. Oh, I've just seen somebody fail a pit lane entry, and I think it's...
Oh, Rick!
No, it was Rick Provenzali.
Oh, wow. He just clobbered the pit divider wall. I've never seen anyone do that.
He's in hard. I think he's had a very last minute look down at the dash to go, no, I don't have enough fuel for another lap. I've got to pit this time. No, he was aware of it. Okay, so he made the lane and then just failed to pull it up.
Oh. Well, it was only a small tap. Okay, so it wasn't a clobber. He knew what the outcome was going to be, and he prepared for it. So he'll avoid damage to his car, but it's definitely damaged his track position there after a stonking drive up the field in the middle stint. So now, Root Cloistra, second overall, was still waiting on that pit stop from Daniel Piper, who's up in the lead. Last couple of cars yet to come into the lane here. We have an absolute raft of cars in the lane here. Provenzali, of course, Martin Hallinan, Glenn Jones, Brant Johnson, Sean Bodici, Kurt Normanson, all of them in the midfield finding their way through. Brant Tucker has just taken his final stop as well. Well, actually, no, not his final stop. Potentially on for one more from here, but Tucker should be able to get that lead back once Saxon and McMenamin come into the pit lane. Keeping an eye on Matt Carrick for now. Trying to keep James Mason behind him. And Carrick's already been out there for 5 laps. Fresh out is James Mason.
So Mason working his way back in. Remember, he ran low late on the stint, so this next phase of those Carrick should be a touch quicker, which should be interesting to keep half an eye on. Remember, this is the battle for the back end of the top 10 overall as well. So at the moment, we have Brent Tucker and Jesse Meneman, Challenger class drivers that are running inside of that top 10. Honestly, where the last time that's all affected by pit stops. And there's the 911 of Isaac Curtis around. I first thought look at the car was, well, it's an ITT Revolution e-racing car, and it's Porsche. It'll be Rick again. No, it's the other one of the two Porsches. And around goes the rear end of the 911. So for Curtis, unfortunately, it's tumbling away down through the order. And the difficulty will be, we're going to feed it in. Greg Heaney's going to dive into the lane. He was just on the comms letting drivers leaders in the round know that he's going to the lane this lap, so he's not going to be terribly aggressive. And gets his next pit stop out of the way. So everyone has got a pit stop to do, and for Greg Heaney, unfortunately, speeding or unsafe entry has managed to pick himself one of the two penalties there, Pete. So he's going to fall through the order a little bit here.
Yeah, that's one of those penalties you can get if you just take it a little bit too hard, hitting those yellow cones at pit entry. Hey, I just wanted to say, Scotty, the thing I'm thinking about right now is, we are over an hour. We're an hour and nearly 15 minutes into the race, right? So 45 minutes or 46 minutes to go. There's been no safety car, but what's really standing out to me is, aside from Jimmy Middleton, who's 10 laps down, so he's sort of stepped out of the race for whatever reason, we only have one car that's 1 lap down, and we've got a couple that are sort of at that point where they're about to be lapped. But we've got nearly the whole field on the lead lap right now. That is unusual for sim racing, right? Over an hour into it, because normally, we have people that come together. But I think it's one of the things about Grand Prix tracks, right, is they're a little bit wider. People don't necessarily come together. We have seen people come together, but they've been able to recover. But just to see the whole field, or pretty much the whole field, other now than Glenn Heaney, who's just served his penalty, on the lead lap is like fantastic for me this far into an endurance race. I think it's an awesome reflection of the quality that we've got here in terms of fair and safe driving. So, obviously there's faster drivers because we wouldn't have challenges and elite. Most of these guys are quicker than me, but fair and safe driving, and that's why everybody's on track. I love it. I'm loving the fact that we've got a full-on race on our hands without safety carrying the lead.
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I understand. Yeah, so we are into sight of that final third of the race. Beyond the 2-hour mark, as Pete just succinctly put that one. And the difficulty will be is who can make gains in this final stanza. McMenamin is one of the last runners. He's now jumped into the pit lane and pit. And we are into corrected fuel strategy again, although now we wait to find out for who has picked off what section of pit stops. And I think that was Bobby Camo just diving in for a fast repair, based upon what I just saw.
If there's any time to take a fast repair, it's now in the final third of the race. Obviously, you don't want to use it up too quickly, but if you have the opportunity towards the end, then certainly go for it. Carrick here, still trying to keep James Mason behind him. Not the best of exits from that southern hairpin, but the battle of the Acuras still in favour of the 2-3-4. He's well in his rhythm, but it's up to James Mason to try and shake that.
It was close though, and that was on the exit of the hairpin running up the hill. So, he's going to be patient. I don't know about you, but it's really, really difficult to get a job done of an overtake down here at the chicane, but it's sort of the longest run you're going to get on the lap. You've got to build, you've got to be close enough, have the dirty air affect him, and have a look at the confidence now that Mason's starting to show as they get to the last corner. A little bit of a later turn in, doesn't quite get to the apex. He's a touch wider as he comes off the last corner as well. And as he runs it out and down the start finish straight away, he will be looking for a little bit of room, a little bit of draft, a little bit of an opportunity to slide to the inside. Fills the mirror of the Riot Sim Racing machine. And for one more lap, he will be forced to watch and endure.
Oh, for sure. But we're in this section of the circuit now where lots of mistakes have been made thus far in this race. A little bit of an easier way into the corner for the 777. What was that?
Was that like a? It was a strip off a wing.
Yeah, that's what was that? That was a blink and you miss it moment. So for those of you watching this live, yeah, if you get on the VOD later and rewind, you'll see something flicking up. Yeah, I think maybe was that like a gurney flap or something.
I was also thinking, a piece actually that just came off my car recently. I parked in a stupid location, and as I basically come back down and over the gutter, it ripped off. There was a little seal, like an air seal, on the front end of the undercar. I was thinking it was one of those plastic strips. It looks similar, quite similar to that. But anyway, regardless, it was. We got an update. We found who it was. We've got the Ferrari that's just resurfaced from pit lane. Probably Camo.
Oh God, yeah. There it is. Yes, the rear end plate. So, okay. Well, that explains it. A little bit of a curiosity there, and we play on.
Interesting. Just weird and absurd little things that happen, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's stuff that you don't often consider in sim racing. I mean, you know, you get bits of debris littering runoff areas and stuff in the real world, of course, but up until iRacing's damage model was updated for all cars, it wasn't really an issue in sim racing, but now it is.
Oh,
wide for Matt Garrick, protects the position from James Mason, and look at him, he's sticking middle of the road. He's not allowing Mason a clear way through here.
Yeah, and now Mason's going to have to try and come back at him. Mason got to the outside there, but it was only just, and that hole disappeared as soon as it started. He's still going to try and keep the nose in.
Oh.
Mason thinks he's faster. Carrick thinks he's accurate, is just a touch wider.
Yeah, perfect matchup there. Is there any opportunity down here at the southern hairpin? Potentially not. A bit too far back to get the move done here is Mason. He'll have to rely on a mistake from Carrick. Look at the speed that Mason is carrying into these corners. He's really confident with that front end, to say nothing of the rear.
Yeah, and you just see, I wonder whether or not Matt Carrick may not have necessarily taken tyres at last pit stop, and the rubber is starting to go away from him at this point in time, because he is certainly struggling to keep that car underneath him and keep James Mason in behind him at the same time. So he's gonna have to pick one or other in a minute, because that rear end might just get away from him if he's not careful.
Jay's picked up another another angle of that incident there, and well, there we go. There's that little flash that we saw. It was getting kicked up and about by so many cars coming through that section.
You've heard the lead pipe drop? That needs that added to it, sent to iRacing. That's a clip from the Looney Tunes. Oh, it's all kicked off!
Oh my God! Oh,
we knew this was coming. We knew it wasn't far away, and we said he had two options. He had to let him go. He had to look after the race car, or there might be trouble. And the third is where it's ended up again.
Oh man, that is contact from the rear from James Mason, but I don't think it's necessary. I mean, we're going to have to take another look at that, because it was a really big hit. Mason was in the slipstream of Matt Carrick. Matt got on the brakes at the usual point, and it's just continuing on here for Carrick. This is just completely ruined his race here. But have a look at what happens here from James Mason's perspective. I think he just wasn't looking at the braking markers. He missed his braking point there.
We've all done that. We've all, when you're racing, you're too deep in racing somebody and you miss the markers because you can't see them sometimes. It does happen. Show me a sim racer that says they've never done that, and I'll show you a liar, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. We've all done it. The engine cover is now loose on that Acura as well. That is a severely damaged car being dealt with there by Matt Carrick. And interestingly, I'm not seeing a mechanical black flag for him. So, I mean, the car is definitely repairable. It'll have to be repaired. Is the onboard. Oh, yeah, gets on the brakes. I think even if there was no car there, Mason wasn't going to be able to make turn 1.
Yeah, that's where if you're going to show the nose to somebody down at turn 1, you properly show the nose as well, because it's only halfway shown. I can tell you, Carrick is still having troubles trying to get that car back to pit lane. He is down in the final chicane at the moment. I think he's waiting for a hole to get through in traffic. Yeah, he is. So I was wondering for half a second whether or not that might be a tow request, and that might be the safety car we're waiting for, which would be conveniently fractionally outside of our fuel window to home. But it looks like he is going to get that one back to pit lane. And race control continuing to have a look at it at the moment. But Carrick has gone from inside the top 10 on overall to 26 before he makes it to the lane. And he will now finally bring that car back to the pit lane.
Yeah, it's such a shame for Matt Carrick, as Peter mentioned earlier in the broadcast. He's the only Riot Sim Racing driver in the field, and he was looking good for a great result. Just massively unlucky to be involved in that.
Yeah, hey, listen, I just checked in with Matty. He's still got a fast repair left, so he's able to just come in and take his last pit stop, get the fast repair, and hopefully he can get to the end. It might be right on the stretch of it, but hopefully it's not too much of an inconvenience for him. But it certainly put him out of sync. Hey, the other guy I had a chat with was Andrew Dutch, and we've noted that Dutchy's sort of fallen off Root Cloister. Root Cloister is absolutely flying out there tonight. Dutchy is not happy with the Mustang in overcast conditions. I won't repeat the words he said to me, guys, but the Mustang is not good in the shade is the kind way of putting it. Fozzie also said the Chev wasn't kind in the shade, so he tried to intimate that it might have been an American car thing. I just said to Fozzie, well, maybe that might be a driver thing, but at the end of the day, Dutchy doesn't think he's got what it takes to get back to Roo at this stage of the race. It's probably good news for Roo and his team, but Dutchy ain't going to give up, and if the sun comes out and those clouds go away, look out, that Mustang's going to get some balls on.
It's those damn power tariffs. They just keep taking away from the American cars and the tariffs, I swear.
Yeah.
Who would do such a thing?
Well, 10% per dollar in it,
Yeah. I mean, it all adds up in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, blame Donald Trump. Dutchy, blame Donald Trump. It's his fault. He had slowed you down. It's overcast and the tariffs have hit you.
Oh, well, Jamie Saxon has received a 15-second penalty from race control for this incident that we're about to see. Oh, he just got on the grass. Wasn't able to slow down, and that's the BMW that he's turned around. Multiple car incident. As a result, yeah, it was Glenn Jones who was having a really good race up to this point. Once again, it's just a case of, someone's having a good drive and then it's ended through no fault of their own. And I have to say, Saxon has not had the race go his way either.
Yeah, unfortunately. But this one's of his own doing, and he will take a transit through the lane, as well as a transit through the kitty litter, and just letting everyone know that he is coming to the lane in behind him. So it's Nick Miller is the next car that's in behind him as well.
Penalty for James Mason as well for the incident there with Carrick, I believe. And Glenn Jones, meanwhile, he's managed to, I think, get that car repaired and back out there. Still running 10th in the Challenger class, but rapidly coming under pressure here from Chris Ruddle, who's actually gotten a great turn of pace as things stand. Maybe that BMW is still a bit damaged. I'm not entirely sure. Can't see any trace of damage from the outside, but Jones is going to press on regardless, and we'll see what chance Ruddle has to get into his class's top 10.
Well, final half an hour is nearly upon us, and we are in the window to get home is the critical factor now as well. We've turned the corner, we can get there, and that will be the big key on the run of the flag. When do they all decide to come to the lane?
Scotty, I was just about to call the exact same thing, mate. We've hit now the time when that last pit stop will get you to the end. Whether you need 10 litres of fuel or 200, doesn't matter. You will now get to the end. So if you're listening to the broadcast and you've been held up by the car in front of you, get into the pits, get your fuel and drive and undercut them. Right? That's my advice, if you're listening. But we know that a lot of people don't listen to the broadcast after the race. That's not my fault. But the advice is, I'm going to say, if you're getting held up right now and you can get to the end, get in there, get your pit stop done, undercut and overtake.
Curious as to what the traffic situation will look like for Ruud Koistra, because he's on about 3.5 seconds or so back from Stefan Mellis and Isaac Curtis, and they have not done their final stops for the night either. So he's got to manage that moving forwards.
Pretty comfortable if I'm Roo. I'm driving till the end of the fuel that I've got and just taking the shortest pit stop, staying out front while you've got clean air. And I know he's about to come up to some traffic, and maybe that might be the trigger for him to come in. But Roo has been he's been a lap or two more than Dutchy each pit stop so far. So if he has been able to maintain the speed and save some fuel, then he's got a significant advantage right now. I think Dutchy's got to keep his eye out for Leith McLeod, because if the overcast situation stays there and the car is as bad as what he's saying it is, then Leith's actually got a chance to ping him back over the course of this next pit stop, because this is the one where the difference in fuel strategy is actually going to make a difference.
So, we went with bated breath then, and we should expect these guys in about 4 laps time, because the max I've seen anyone go on a tank, as it were, is 18 laps. Ruud Koistra and Andrew Dutch currently ending the 15th lap of their stints at the moment. So yeah, I reckon about 3 laps from now we're going to be seeing those top 2 come in. Maybe Keith McClymont is going to go a couple more laps. He has done 12 laps thus far on his particular stint. So check back in with the back end of the top 10 in the elite class. This is the battle between Brant Johnson and Kurt Normanson. These guys are a little bit further down than they'd like, down at 20th and 21st. They've got a whole raft of Challenger class cars in between themselves and Adam Burhock, the next elite class car, up ahead of them. These guys are midway through their stint right now, and it looks like these are going to be some of the final drivers that we see come in for that final stop. Brad Coates, meanwhile, from 2nd place in Challenger, comes in 15 laps done on that stint.
Yeah, he's going to dive to the lane, and the rest of the field will take a look at whether or not they want to come with it. Chris Withers, I did hear the pit lane entry alarm go off one more time. I'll be Withers to the lane as well. I get the feeling we're just going to see 1 or 2 cars just trickle in every lap from now. It's probably going to be the name of the game. 22nd place car out on track, and I believe that would have been Brant Johnson forwarding past the pit lane entry. This is the battle that we've got to keep just an eye on. Stefan Mellis has already been cleared by Roo at this point in time, so he's led a lot of laps here tonight.
Yeah, certainly has.
So, a sneaky stat that is just, now this is anecdotal and I have nothing to back it up, but I have a sneaky suspicion Roo hasn't actually led a lap in this series prior to tonight.
Yes, well, I'm certainly not in a position to verify that claim. This is my first broadcast on this particular series, but Koistra finds his way into the lane. Andrew Dutch following him in. They've actually closed off that stint a bit sooner than I anticipated. They are going to make it a solid 27 minutes of racing to the end, and McClymont will find his way through into the overall lead for the next couple of laps, but a bit of traffic there. I think that's Ruddle there in the Sud Speed McLaren, just letting our new overall leader go. So Dutch, I've noticed, and Koistra both up on the jacks in this pit stop. Koistra comes out first, still fuel getting into the car for Andrew Dutch. He is finally away. And that's going to be your effective race lead gap there. Koistra just absolutely nailing that. The pit stop time, 21.9 seconds there. And it's one of the quickest pit stops we've seen thus far from our top three.
Now, what does Leith McClymont do? Because coming a couple laps later, it's not really worked all night long. I think he's, well, then again, realistically, he has run that tank drive, we believe, each and every cycle through. It's just been that couple extra laps. So his fuel bill will be the shortest of the three, but unfortunately, track position-wise, it's going to take a 10-second shorter pit stop to make him relevant again, is really the nature of what he's up against at this point in time. So, quick in qualifying for the Lamborghini on race day. Actually, Leith McClymont for the dive in. Kurt Nommensen as well, receiving a penalty, and that will be on the way into pit lane for him. So probably speeding.
Yeah, exactly, Scott. As McClymont comes in, Nommensen was doing 100 k's an hour when he passed the pit speed limit cones, and the pit speed limit is 60 k's an hour.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that would definitely give you more than a speeding ticket here in Australia.
That's on track for a GT3 to have its car crash, would it not be?
Yeah, most likely. I guess it depends on how many demerit points he has.
Well, and the age of the driver. It's under, if you're on your Ps, I think that's an automatic crushing.
Yeah, damn. Well, for now, that Audi is still in shape. The black flag being served. McClymont comes out of the pits, and hello, is he going to come out ahead of Andrew Dutch? Interesting stuff there.
So he has gained back some time, but he's still about 4 seconds behind Koistra at this point in time, and the tricky part for him will be what's he able to do. The other thing is, fastest lap time 55.2, so he's been about 0.4 of a second off those guys in and around them.
Now, of course, we did note that McClymont had been filling the car up for the previous couple of stops, so this was going to be a short fill regardless on this final stop. But yeah, he hasn't been able to hold on to that mid-race pace like Koistra and Dutch have been able to do. Maybe with that quicker pit stop, sort of getting the fire in his belly, so to speak, might be able to hold off Dutch, but I don't think there's much catching Koistra at this point.
Absolutely, it'll be a race on for effective P2. It'll be the big thing we'll be looking at in the last 25 minutes of this race.
Now, boys, I have just come back from a chat with someone, I won't say who, and it was a really interesting chat because the conversation was more about do you or do you not take tyres with 30 minutes to go, knowing that a set of GT3 tyres are good for an hour at least, and generally they're good for 2 hours, right, if you're doing full-on endurance racing. So somebody in this race elected to come into the pits and just do their fuel stop and not take tyres to maintain the advantage of having warm but worn tyres with 30 minutes to go. Little risk maybe if you get a safety car, but I think low risk given that we've seen the race be as open as it is so far. So really, really good conversation. Like I said, I can't tell you who it was I was chatting to, otherwise nobody will talk to me next round. But anyway, so really, really good part of the strategy considerations. How that applies to P1, 2 or 3, I'll leave that to you guys to speculate.
Well, we have one short pit stop of the three of them, so I think it's pretty damn obvious who he was talking to. And that would be the driver that has resurfaced in effective P2. But the other thing I was just thinking about was the fuel margins. The other guys, the reason they went short would be to cover off a tyre stop. That's why they've been short pitting the whole time.
Indeed. We got a replay coming apparently, and this is Leith McClymont, and well, he comes into the box. Does he go up on the jacks? He does not. So McClymont is out there on worn tyres. Didn't have to worry about firing them up like Andrew Dutch and Rue Koistra had to do, but I think now, a couple of laps into the stint for Dutch, you're going to see that tyre advantage come into play. Just monitor those lap times and see where they're at as Daniel Piper comes into the lane. This should allow them to filter up just another position or so. Still waiting on a final stop from Rick Provenzale and Brant Tucker as well, but it looks like Brant at least is going to go for another lap here. Now, lap times out of the pits here. McClymont with a 1:55.2 and Andrew Dutch with a 1:54.9. So I think the advantage is with the Mustang here.
Yeah, at the moment it certainly is, and actually track temps just died off another couple of degrees as well. So again, if we're going to get an opportunity for this Lamborghini to keep its tyres underneath it, it's going to be in this segment of the race as well, which will be the critical factor. But the other side of that coin is that there was only one driver that started off at the front end of the field and it sort of drifted a little bit. And realistically, he had one opportunity left open to him. So, you know, good decision making. This is Leith going, well, I'm going to finish third no matter what I do, so let's have a crack at trying to finish second. And that is a race car driver engaging the Galaxy brand.
Indeed, and he's not under much pressure for effective fourth either. So yeah, if I was in his position, I'd do the same thing. Just have a go and settle for third if you must, but have a go at second. Meanwhile, Martin Hallinan continuing on what has been a very good drive for him, but he's only got less than half a second for Matthew Gerard. Yeah, that is a car off. That's one of the Acuras. It looks like it might be Matt Carrick. Yeah, he's come out of the pits recently from damage from that incident earlier, but looks like his woes have continued. He lost the rear end coming into that previous left-hander.
Yeah, so to tell the story, he's actually lapped traffic in this situation, and that's actually, was that a touch of the grass on the way in there? I think he might have just gotten a touch wide and the car got away from him.
Yeah, the thing is, there is no grass at the turn-in point at that corner, and he was on the racetrack fully when he turned in. He might have just been maybe getting off the brakes too quickly, turning in too quickly, unloading the rear a bit too much at that turn-in point.
Either way, that car's gotten away from him, and after having a night that was on for a wealth of success, one touch, unfortunately, is taking him in the wrong direction. Because I was seeing a lot of flick up off the rear tyres as he got into that corner. So if it's not grass, it'll be marbles, will be the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could already tell that he was sort of offline on the way into the corner. He was sort of getting in towards the apex a bit too early, almost firing it towards the inside of the corner. So he probably was already dealing with some instability there.
Yeah, so, and then he's around from out there a bit like, yeah, you're right, not quite out in the marbles enough for me. But, yeah, that's worthwhile noting. I mean, if any of the drivers, if I was an engineer and whispering in the driver's ears, and they'd be just saying, just be a little bit careful, marbles are an issue now. Would be the first concern.
I suspect that was just a slightly too early on the throttle as well, and that's what caused it.
So you see the marbles starting to form on the outside of that sequence, and
I'm just waiting here because Jay has a new tool. I don't know if he's showed you this yet, Reese, but this is his new favourite thing.
No, I think.
Oh, he's not bringing it. Oh, come on. We need to. Here's the thing. We have a fancy telestrator. We need to play with the fancy telestrator. We've got a new toy. We've got to walk the toy out at every opportunity. This isn't.
I was there in the comms box with you when Jay used that for the first time.
Right. Yep.
Now,
Yep.
oh, hello. Oh, yes, indeed, that is a marble.
Yeah, one of those things that you put in a circle in the school ground and you flick marbles in and out and each other and you collect them. Is that one of those?
Yeah, I think so. I think these ones would be a little bit softer and maybe leave a mark if you handle them.
Okay, hey Jay, I'd just like to congratulate you on bringing a new toy to the telecast and welcome to the 1990s as far as World Cricket goes.
That's good. Oh, bit of a wide moment for Provenzale there. Just losing. No, sorry, Isaac Curtis. Sorry, in the 911. I'm getting my Porsches confused.
No. Let's call it Rick. Yeah, Isaac didn't have any mistakes tonight. He drove a perfectly clean race. Rick Provenzale, though, he came up every few laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Just devastating drive from Provenzale for sure. Speaking of devastating, how's the lead that Brant Tucker has in the TriStar Racing Ferrari? Still holding on to the lead of the Challenger class for now. We've still got 16 and a half minutes left in the race. There's potential for anything to happen here. But Tucker is coming up to the end of his stint here for his final pit stop of the night. And it's only he, Rick Provenzale, McMenamin, Bonici, and Saxon, along with Brant Johnson, who I think owe pit stops. There goes Tucker into the lane.
Yep, there we go. For a trundle at 60 kilometers an hour. Provenzale is going to continue on, although he is now behind the out-and-out race leader, which is Rue Koistra. All of this because there was a mistake for Rick Provenzale. Runs a little bit wide on the drive into the final corner. Opens the door for Koistra to make his way on through. He's not hanging about tonight at all, is he?
No, that's the first bit of real drama that Koistra's encountered since he took the lead as well. So it just goes to show what kind of a race he's been having. McMenamin also staying out. Tucker has completed his pit stop and a mere 14.9 seconds in the box there for Tucker. He does fall behind McMenamin and Hallinan, but they have yet to take their final stop. So Tucker looks pretty safe for the moment.
It's going to be a fair way ahead. Remember, McMenamin's actually on the longest of everyone here tonight, so he has the shortest amount of fuel to pay back at this final stop. It will indeed be a splash and go. There will probably actually be size as a result of that one for Jessica Horneman either. So either way, Matthew Gerard in for his final stop. And he's out again, 12 seconds on that one. Another no-tyre final stop. Difficulty will be is how are Leith McClimate's tyres hanging on up front?
Well, considering the last lap times, still holding up pretty nicely, but Andrew Dutch is continuing to take time out of him here. Last lap for McClimate was a 1:55.6. 55.0 for Dutch. So those tyres are certainly switched on the Mustang now. Bit of a blip there on lap 52 though. Apparently Andrew Dutch had some kind of issue that kept him from getting further up to McClimont. If that hadn't happened, he'd be right on the back of him, if not past him.
Yeah, so now it's going to be about seeing if he can cruise on up to the back, not overheat the front tyres off of this Mustang, and seeing if he can impact Leith McClimate's race just a little bit, another quarter of a second on that most recent lap. So zigs and zags, ebbs and flows just a touch. Provenzale, we saw it after the lane. That'll be his final stop. 11.8 seconds for him.
In comes Martin Hallinan as well for his final stop, and that just leaves McMenamin and potentially Adam Burhop as well. Burhop's been out there for 10 laps now, with 13 minutes to go, 2-minute lap. No, I think Burhop, if he's been saving fuel, might be able to get to the end from here.
Yeah, but it's going to be tight.
Very tight.
And that is the crest on the outside of the banked hairpin as McClimate and Dutch roll their way down through the lowest point of the circuit, and then it's a climb back up the hill and through the Schumacher S's. such is the location of the GP circuit that unless if you were to tell somebody that this was just a generic GP circuit, picturesque racetrack, in actual fact, you know, you could even Britain's probably a touch too far. I was going to say somewhere in Britain, but you could say that this was an Austrian track and somebody would believe you. You just don't know on this GP circuit what is only feet from the end of the circuit and the end of the lap. Another car off there was. What was that?
That was Nommensen.
It was indeed. Yep.
In the Audi. He had a problem through the Schumacher S there. Just caught the curb in exactly the wrong way, and the direction change just completely unloaded the rear of the car for him.
Yep, so unfortunately for Nommensen, now fallen off the lead lap. Josh Swain's going to dive into the race to get his, into the pit lane to get his final stop of the race out of the way. And whilst McMenamin and Brant Tucker are going to go toe-to-toe on track here in a few moments, this will not be for actual on-track position. McMenamin still owes us a stop in, at most, 2 laps' time.
Right, so into turn 1 they go, as we're hearing that Rick Provenzale is having some tech issues out there on track. I see him falling down the order. This is the issue for Nommensen. You saw that he caught the left-hander curb, and that induced a micro slide in the car. And as soon as he turned the wheel back the other way to turn in for the right, the car was like, no thank you.
He's already committed than that atrocious GT3 traction control with the anti doesn't have anything to do with the anti-slide, and it's just all traction control in the sim just kicks in, and you can't lock it up, unfortunately, to try and prevent something like that from happening. This is getting juicy between these two. This is only, I would say, maybe a lap away before we're going to start having blows being traded metaphorically.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a fun fight. McClymont on those worn tyres, trying to desperately hang on, 2-second spot. But then Andrew Dutch, who's run in second for the majority of this race, apart from this final pit cycle, trying to get it back on fresh tyres on that 51 Mustang, and he is going to be ragging it here to try and find his way past McClymont. Into turn 1 they come, and it is solidly on the brakes for the both of them. But you see that Dutch is taking that sort of slow and fast outline through a lot of these corners. He's trying to gear up for the straights here. And they come to this final corner of the section. There goes Koistra in the lead of the race. And far behind, it's a gap of about 7.5 seconds is the battle between McClymont and Dutch. It seems like Dutch is trying to gear up for the exits and for the straights here, because he knows that Mustang is really good in the corners, as has been demonstrated and we've talked about before. So he needs to try and find a way to get some more straight line speed in that thing, and the best way to do that is a late apex.
Therein lies the difficulty. Tyres are ailing, they're not going to want to pivot, they're not going to want to rotate in, and sometimes when you're late apexing on older rubber, it's just not going to come to you. So you've got to manage that. As the stint goes on, the margin now. I mean, you can see it. There is less than a car length between them. There's less than half a car length between them as they head into 11 and 12. Under 10 minutes on the clock. Second and third on the road. Daniel Piper, the next car in the rearview mirror. It's 10 seconds back to him. It will not matter, provided they don't come to blows.
You've got to be careful in the braking zones here in all cars at all times. We've seen it go wrong many a time for drivers throughout the field. You see that Dutch is really piling the pressure on in the braking zone there. He's going deeper into the corners. That is, of course, making him suffer in a straight line, but he's drawing level with McClymont at the end of the start-finish straight. Then the gap closes again. Then you see him go a bit wide, avoid that big dip on the inside of the first corner here. But McClymont is nailing his lines through this arena section. I think that's chief to what's keeping him ahead of Dutch here.
Yep. That's the big part in that first sector. Dutch just had a wiggle, just couldn't quite get the car to rotate back at the exit of 3, and that's compromised him off of 4, and there is a 6/10 margin and a multiple car length margin that now opens its way up, and that might be a lap or 2 for Dutch to close back down, and a lap or 2 might be all the time that McClimate needs. That was critical. That was a mistake in what is a critical moment of this segment of the race.
Yeah, if there's one time for you to be on it, it's the final few minutes of a race. Everything that you've done before this point has been building up to this. So if you make a mistake now, then that's all of your hard work undone. I'm sure that's what Andrew Dutch is thinking about, but he's still faster than McClimont every lap of the last 3 running. The advantage has decreased somewhat, but it's still there. That'll still be playing on McClimont's mind a little.
Will be for sure.
Okay, lads, you guys have been focusing on P1, 2 and 3. I've been out there having a chat with Brent Tucker, the lead Challenger class car. He was following Jesse McMenamin, wasn't putting too much pressure on him. He had a spotter in there, giving him the idea that Jesse was most likely to come in the pit stop. That has just happened. Jesse's just come in for his final pit stop, which has put Brant back into P7 outright and leader of the Challenger class. So those guys are on point and they know what's going on with the whole of the race.
I believe that's actually the last of the pit stops for the race as well out the way, because we were waiting on it was just McMenamin to come to the lane. So now that that one's cleared up, it has cleared up completely and utterly. But back up at the point, and Dutch, this is the section. Again, he just can't get the car to tip in there, can he?
No, yeah, he's just, every single time they come to that section, the Lambo's just a bit quicker to the apex, and you know, it's a difficult sequence of corners. Basically, those last 2 turns of the arena section, they're effectively a chicane, aren't they? They're so close together, and the way you take that left-hander is going to define your exit from the right. So if Dutch wants to stay in touch and get this move done, he's got to try and compromise a bit through that left-hander, get that car turned in, keep it to the inside, widen out the run. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah, look from the rear wing end plate backwards, and a look from the front end of the Mustang forwards. That is the margin that he's going to try and run down. We're under 5 minutes to go after 2 hours of racing. Nurburgring. We are 1 hour and 55 into it. 5 minutes remain. At most 3 more laps. They're not going to get a 4th. Just based upon the timing. We've got to keep an eye on where is our race leader as he comes to the final corner. And when does he cross the start-finish line? For Rue Koistra, he's got an 8-second margin. It is all on him to just not make a mistake. He can park the bus from here. There will be no pressure as he looks back through the rear-view mirror. And it's going to be about 4:25, 4:30 left. And a lap time of about 1:54. There's going to be 3 laps. We will get 3.
And that brings into question once again Adam Burhoff, because remember, he is 15 laps into his stint now, and we were wondering a little earlier whether or not he'd be able to make it to the end. Still a question mark hovering over that. We'll have to wait and see. I think Pete's just gone down to have a chat to him, and we'll see exactly what the situation is for Adam Burhoff. But if he's been able to make the tank last, and if he can get to the end here, it'll be a great drive from 11th up to 5th.
I'm just having a quick look, and Brent Tucker's best finish so far was race 2, and it was Pete's P19 overall. In terms, but then he also got a 15-second post-race penalty. So his race results have not been all that great thus far. So this would be a big result in terms of the Challenger class standings. He's actually 15th. He's only got 132 points on the board all up. So for Tucker, finishing 7th here tonight would be a big swing in his season and a big win for him in terms of that Challenger class standing. Pete, you've got an update for us on Burhoff.
Well, look, it's the driver's confidence that you've got to take at the win when you're asking these sorts of ask Adam whether he can make it to the end of the race. He was really confident in the straight forward. Yes, I can make it. Yeah, that tells me he's either right on the bubble or he's just very because he's going to get there. But from the way he came back to me, I'm pretty sure he can.
So my other question to go along with that was, yes, I can make it, bugger off, leave me alone, because the bugger off, leave me alone says, I'm not actually quite sure.
Well, you never know, right? Because some drivers will answer with very, very coy language, but Adam was a straightforward yes, and without saying bugger off, I'm racing. So I did bugger off.
Yeah, fair enough too. Let Adam Burholt continue to focus on getting to the end there. For now, keep your eye on the Mustang again, and he's still having those troubles on the exit of the arena. I don't think it's necessarily a car layout issue. I mean, the Mustang is front engine, so you'd expect a bit more understeer from the car, but yeah, it just feels to me like he's entering that last couple of turns of the arena section too hot. And that's just compromising his run down the straight. It's allowing McClymont to get a bit of breathing room at the same point every single lap.
Now, just remember, Dutchy's been really critical of the Mustang whilst it's been under clouds and in the shade out of the sun. So, whatever he's doing, he's not happy with the setup when it's like that, and that's probably costing him at this stage of the race.
Well, I'm just looking at that, I'm going, that looks like a diff binding up too. I wonder whether or not he's got a lot of diff preload built into that, and it just cannot rotate through that corner.
Yeah, that's something to take into account too. These cars are very tunable as dearie me. The 911 of Isaac Curtis with a bit of a problem there. Both of them will make their way through here, and with 40 seconds on the clock, Rukoistra rounding the final corner to take the white flag. We officially, Scott, have 1 lap to go here.
That is it. It's not time expires +1. It is in range of 1 to go when you get to the line. There is not enough time for us to complete 2 more, and therefore it will be only 1. Isaac Curtis will dive in the lane. That was the car, the 911 that you saw off in the final sector of that most recent lap. But for Andrew Dutch, is he going to run out of time? The deploy on tyres from Leith McClymont set this last race up and said, Andrew, well, Dutchy, if you want it, you're going to have to come and chase it. And the Mustang, the one place it struggled, the one place it suffered, look, he finally got the corner right. That lap. It's too late though. It's really too late. McClymont's out to a second on him now. So that one is over, done and dusted. So for Leith McClymont to have made the tyres last through that final stanza, to have double stinted them in pursuit of a little bit of track position, boy, has worked. And a 3-way battle as well for the Challenger class podium. The back end of the podium, who is going to duel this one out, because you've got currently Brant Tucker in first, Brad Coates in second, and Nick Miller in the Porsche currently has third. But there are 2 more drivers right there that want to take it from him, Jesse McMenamin and Martin Allanen. So Porsche chased by 2 hungry McLarens.
And McMenamin is the freshest driver out of the pits here, pitted a mere 4 laps ago. So he's going to be dialing up this aggression, going to be trying to get that 3rd place. But Hallinan has been a very consistent competitor in that Challenger class all race long. We'll wait and see how that battle turns out. But for the moment, I think we have to give our victor his dues. Rukoistra rounding the final corner, Scott, and he's going to take an emphatic victory here at the Nurburgring.
Yeah, dominated once he got the lead. It was never looking back for the 252. And the FRG driver gets his day in the spotlight. And putting an Acura on the top step. Leith McClymont threw everything he had at it. Didn't have the outright pace, but he had the outright smarts, and that will award him the 2nd step of the podium. If Andrew Dutch, he led, all 3 of those top 3 led at one point in this race. And not to be, unfortunately, for him here tonight, because the track cooled off. That Mustang fell away a touch. Brant Tucker gets it done in the Ferrari. Challenger class winner for TriStar Racing comes away with a class victory. Now we watch and we wait, because Brad Coates is going to round the final corner, and he's going to pick off Pete Sue in the Challenger class, and then it's this battle. And for Nick Miller, he's got a nose ahead, he's got a few car lengths ahead, and a run out of the final chicane. Pull it up nice and accurately. Don't run wide at the final corner. Nothing silly. For a driver, I can tell you, I've played cards with in person, moved to Orange, a change of career, and he will be very, very happy with himself as he picks up P3 on the road, and then this battle deeper in class as well for 10th on the road for the challengers. Glenn Jones and Mark Foster will go toe-to-toe out of the final corner. 2 hours of the Nurburgring puts it on for the Premier Endurance Racing League. I believe Dash Off-Road got their money's worth tonight as their primary sponsor.
Oh, they certainly did. Man, what a fight there between Jones and Foster right towards the end. Foster was all over him at the final chicane. Last few drivers to come across the line very shortly, but Rook Oystra has his celebrations beginning in earnest in the arena section. Nice little expanse of tarmac with which to lay down some doughies.
Make sure you switch the traction control off. That's no longer needed. And tell you what, fuel strategy-wise, I think you had a few laps banked up, don't you?
Yeah, certainly did. Rook Oystra, what a drive. Big congratulations. And tell you what, there's been some great drives all through the field in this race as we're about to go through these results here, Scott. Very happy to be on board for this one, but yeah, what a drive from Oystra.
Yeah, thoroughly confirming with that one. FRG Sports, Rook Oystra gets his day in the sun from the German track of some name. Dash Off-Road, well, I tell you what, there was a fair bit of Dash Off-Road today. There was Kitty Lydia just about going everywhere. But for Leith McClymont, he would come home in P2, gets the job done over Andrew Dutch by 1.8 seconds in the end. So Dutch might have needed to save at the back end of that one, apply the pressure as much as he could. 10 seconds further back from there was where we found Dan Piper and Adam Burhop, only a couple of adrift. Did make the flag. 5th place for him, even after a worried start. Alfonso Latella home in behind him. Provenzale gets home inside of your top 10 as well. Richard Mayer, after that penalty for failing to serve a slowdown penalty, do you think you look at that one and you go, might have been a podium that went begging there for the BMW driver out of Sudspeed Autosport tonight? Patrick Reardon and Glenn Arnott rounding out your top 10 in terms of your elite class standings. The times for all 15 drivers in your elite class, one further driver on the lead lap was James Mason. Well, troubles for him in the early parts of the race cascaded throughout the end. Brent Johnson home off the lead lap, Matt Carrick and Kurt Nommensen joining him, and Isaac Curtis, the last driver home and the only driver at 2 laps down in the in the elite class. And Reese, take us through the challenges.
Yeah, so Brant Tucker, he had the pace, he had the consistency all day long, and that's a 15-second victory over Brad Coates. Nick Miller defending from Jesse McMenamin right at the end there, with Martin Hallinan coming close behind to round out your top 5. Trent Stapleton, he had some great pace, but a couple of misplaced spins robbing him of a potential better result there. He does come home 2 seconds ahead of Matthew Gerard, who had his own host of issues in this race. Sean Bonici finishing in 8th. Jamie Saxon was in contention for the Challenger class victory, but multiple big incidents through that race for him. He'll be taking a lot into account in future rounds from that. Glenn Jones just rounding out the top 10, fighting with Mark Foster in the Corvette, who finished in 11th spot. And behind them, Chris Ruddle coming home, last car on the lead lap in the Challengers. Stefan Mellis, Josh Swain, Greg Heaney and Chris Withers finished 1 lap down. We had an unfortunate retirement from Bobby Camo and Jimmy Middleton to round out our 18 cars in the Challengers, Scott.
Yeah, and that was the field to bring it home here tonight. 31 drivers would still exist at the conclusion. 2 drivers' retirements along the way for 33 competitors in total here tonight. No introduction actually of safety car either, but it'll be time to celebrate them in style. We've got time to take it to the top step of the podium, and a man who is constantly putting on series and getting Formula Racing and their involvement for others. Finally, you get one moment in the spotlight, Roo. Thoroughly from everyone here, first and foremost, congratulations, because we all love to see you do well as well. But mate, that Acura, she was punching a straight line tonight.
I know, and I kept it all 4 wheels where they were supposed to be, so I'm pretty happy with that.
I was just about to say, I think your mother would like it if you slice the car down the middle and chop 2 off, I think.
Oh, that's right. Well, I'm sure she's overwhelmed that I actually made it home.
Mate, it's not common that number 1 you keep all 4 wheels on it, number 2 that you do well, and number 3 that mum's watching all at the same time. Normally one of those 3 is not put together.
Yeah, I feel blessed. I'm actually sweating bullets because it's a little bit humid in my room, and I'm racing in VR, so it was actually grueling, like proper grueling. So I'm glad it's finished actually.
Hang on. Can I get you to say that again? Did you just say humid in Melbourne?
Yeah.
So,
It's
it
not
doesn't
hot.
look-
It's just humid. So when all the heat comes pouring off the VR and the computer and all that, it just it gets a bit ugly in here.
It's supposed to open a
Can't be
window.
Melbourne, Scotty. Can't be Melbourne, Scotty. It's got to be the
No,
room.
no, it is.
Yeah.
It is Melbourne.
It's got to be real in the room. Yeah.
No.
No, it's
it is-
localized exactly in my room, kind of like
Yeah.
the Aurora Borealis.
No. So what's happened is he definitely lives in Melbourne because he's got all the windows shut to keep the cold out.
Yeah, that's it.
So, mate, congratulations first and foremost on the race. That one was a little bit tricky. Obviously, had to get the job done. So that first stint was that we saw you sort of in the first sort of 5 or so laps just didn't quite have the initial start of the run pace, and all of a sudden the pace just sort of gradually kept drifting back towards you. Were you thinking conservation fuel run in that middle sort of period of the race just before that first stop?
You're kind of battling with your own brain a little bit out front. You keep getting, your mind goes for a wander, but there's that, and tyre management actually. There's a little purple patch with the Acura, like after lap 4, it goes for a couple of laps where it's just a weird and squirrely before it comes back again. So just keeping that managed. If I saw Andrew had a bad lap, I could cool off a bit and cool him down. I was pretty much doing that the whole time.
Mate, not just quick here tonight, fastest lap on the way to victory as well. Congratulations. Who would you like to give a thank you to as well?
Oh, my mum first, of course. I couldn't go without thanking her. She comes in every race and cheers me on, so that's pretty awesome. All the team at FRG and mainly David Roberts as well. I'd like to give a big shout out for him. He's about to go on a bit of a journey, so thinking of him, and when he comes back, we'll all make it happen. And of course, Pell and all associates, Gamer Gear Direct, Sud Speed, and Dash Off Road. And you guys, of course.
Confirming mum did chime in. We're so proud. Good job, Roo. There you go. Just get that on the end. Congratulations, mate. Good to see you do well. Go off and enjoy that one, I think.
Yeah, sweet.
All right, we're going to take one step further down the podium. We're going to chat to the driver of the Lamborghini, and I believe Reese Gardner is standing on by with Leith McClimate.
Yeah, indeed, Leith. Pole position for you. You must have felt great about that. The Lamborghini, definitely great in qualifying trim. And you had plenty of dramas in the car in the second half of the race, dealing with those worn tyres, but you managed to pull it off. So you must still feel good about tonight, regardless of whether or not you could convert that pole into a win.
Yeah, I was pretty happy, mate, to finish P2. I had some hardware dramas, so that slowed me down a touch. But congratulations to Roo for winning that Dutchy, finishing P3.
Absolutely, a very strong podium here at the Nurburgring today. But yeah, you obviously had that really big gap to Piper, so you weren't really under much threat for finishing off the podium. So we were saying it here in the commentary box, you might as well go for it and go tire free on that last stop to try and stay ahead of Andrew.
Yeah, that's basically about it. I looked after the tyres pretty well. I didn't have too many dramas in regards to that. It was more the internet dropping out and stuff that sort of took away my concentration, I guess you could say. And I dropped behind a bit. I think I had the average pace to be up there with Roo after the pit stops, the final pit stops. But yeah, anyway, it happens.
Certainly does, and you have a second place out of it, and a great haul of championship points here in the elite category. So the Nurburgring definitely smiled on you today, Leith. Is there anyone that you want to thank before we let you go?
yeah, just a shout out to the sponsors, AITT, Sudspeed, Kibby, SureX4, Bunny's Builds. Thanks for your support.
And thank you for joining us, Leith McClymont. And, well, I got to say, it was a very interesting battle that he had with Andrew Dutch. Scott Rankin stood by with the Mustang driver.
Hello, boys. How are we?
Yeah, doing quite well. Looks like I'll be taking this one as well. Andrew Dutch. Well, it was one heck of a fight with McClymont at the end there. You had to go at Rue as well to bring things through at the start of the race. The Mustang seemed pretty strong in the corners, looking at those sectors.
Yeah, overall it wasn't too bad. Like, I know Pete dropped in, and I explained to him I was having trouble when the track was under shade. The Mustang turned into an absolute dog to drive, but when the track was sunny, it hooked up quite well. But as I was saying to the other boys, the Acura and the Lambo, they were just beat going out of the corners. Like, I could not get the power down the way they could, so it was the struggle to keep up with them.
And naturally aspirated V8 versus naturally aspirated V10 and twin turbo V6. Sometimes the equation does not fall your way, but still, getting a podium in a top 3 as competitive as that. I mean, I think back to the end of qualifying when we saw those gaps between yourself, Leith, and Rue for those top spots, and you must have known from the start that it was going to be a hard slog.
Yeah, mate, there was not much in it in qualifying. I knew it was going to be a tight race between us three. I think there was probably about 3/10 from us to the cars behind. So I knew we'd probably gap those guys, and it would just be us three, which it pretty much turned out to be that way. But yeah, full credit to Rui. He drove a great race, and Leith, I'm pretty sure it was his second stint. He ended up saving 2 or 3 laps or something like that, so he was really good on fuel as well.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it all came down to playing the strategy game, but also having a rollicking good race at the end there, Dutchy. Well, congratulations for sure on that podium. Is there anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, obviously Jimmy, Rick for putting this lead together, all the sponsors that are on the car, Fozzie, Jimmy and Ron for coaching me through yet another week to get me to the end. So yeah, thanks to all those boys.
Indeed, and thank you very much for joining us, Andrew Dutch, and hopefully get a chance to speak to you next round.
Awesome, thanks mate.
Critically, Dutchy, are you going to make the minimum weight this time?
Oh, you poked your head up to say hello, did you, mate? That's surprising.
No, just to poke fun at you. That's the only thing.
Mate, who's faster than who?
Sorry, mate. There's nothing that we can be compared on at all. I don't have any data. Besides, I think I distinctly recall a race from Magny Coors last year where I put you on the winning strategy. You've never said thank you for that.
No, I never will.
Okay. Moving right along. Yeah, good to see you. I'm loved around here. Yeah, thanks, Dutchy. Good to see you, mate.
Thanks, boys.
We'll let go of Andrew Dutch there. And I understand, Scott, you've had a chance to catch up with Brant Tucker from TriStar Racing, winning the Challenger class today.
Yeah, indeed. He was just chatting down to all the boys at the back end of that one. And Brant, 2 hours around the Nurburgring. The Ferrari was pretty stout. In terms of Challenger class, you actually had that one wrapped up by a comfortable 15 seconds in the end, mate. But that race was anything but. It was just about management, that opening stint, wasn't it? Getting yourself into the race a little bit, and then it just all sort of, okay, keep plugging on. Yeah, I guess just keep plugging on.
Yeah, it feels weird to be up here. Hello. Yeah, look, that was the Astro Ferrari was just absolutely on rails that race. My mentality going into it was pretty much don't give a rat's about the elite guys. If they want to get past me, they get past me. So I kind of got fooled a little bit at the start there, but managed to settle into a rhythm. Got caught behind James Mason, so I just backed off, tried to fuel save a little bit. Inevitably, he made a couple mistakes. I'd see he'd ran wide at a few corners, and yeah, just backed off and let him make those mistakes and managed to get by pretty cleanly. And from there, it was just smooth sailing. Yeah, that was other than a slight blip on the radar going into pit lane. That was a pretty faultless race by my standards. Probably one of the best races I've done, and yeah, just took me 3.5 seasons. Got a dub in PEL eventually.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it, of the Challenger class, is to sort of give something to go out, chase, go out and achieve. And actually, I was only chatting halfway through the broadcast. I mean, the results not necessarily haven't been coming your way, you know, just things haven't been going your way, but eventually, just one track, everything kind of hooks up. Does that sort of sound to me like you've actually spent a fair few laps here at the Nurburgring? Does that mean, you know, there's a fair bit of practice at the Nordschleife just with the GP circuit stapled on, or you actually done a fair bit of running around the GP circuit in general?
I did about 3 dozen laps, which is about 3 dozen laps more than I normally do. But yeah, just did, you know, a dozen laps a day. I'm kind of thought I'd give the trophy AI coach a crack, and apparently that seems to have worked wonders for my dopey backside. But just the set I used, I pulled out of the folder, just worked instantly, and couple very minor tweaks, I think, late on Friday afternoon, and that's all I really did. That thing was just an absolute beast, and just on rails. And yeah, it's a pleasure to drive that Ferrari.
Well, mate, who would you like to give a shout out and a thank you to for helping you get it done here tonight in the TriStar Racing Ferrari?
Huge thanks to the boys with helping me get my memory issues sorted late last night, so I was kind of dreading actually racing tonight, and of course our amazing sponsor Astro. It's awesome to get a dub with their logo on the side of the car, so I'll give full credit to the Astro energy I had just before the race. I don't think I'll be sleeping anytime soon due to caffeine, boys. So and just yeah, thanks to Dean for joining late in the race as well, kind of coaching me through those last few laps, and to you guys, of course.
Thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations, mate. I get the feeling that, well, you've got the energy to keep up and keep celebrating, so you better go and, well, celebrate. That's about all there is left to do, mate. Congratulations.
I have a cold beer waiting, and I cannot explain how excited I am to have it.
Just, confirm or deny you'll be drinking it from a shoe.
I've done that once after a Le Mans 24-hour victory, so if we get the Majors 24-hour dub, maybe, but for this race, no. Sorry to say.
I feel like this one's more special. This is more special than a 24. Come on, you gotta do it.
Fine, nah, I don't want to get sick. I'm gonna
Congratulations on the race win, mate. We'll see you again next time.
Don't encourage my stupidity, Scott. We all know.
I'm going to continue to encourage it in your DMs. Don't worry, we'll be here for a while.
Oh, great. Fine. I guess I can deal with that. Cheers, boys.
And then finally, Reese is going to be standing on by and have a chat to Brad Coates, who's second out of the Challenger class here tonight.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, Brad, second place for you, but I think early on in the race, it looked like that was a slim possibility, getting turned around in the arena section, having to carry damage for a good part of that stint. Certainly wasn't an easy race for you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, to be honest, finishing so high. Things have been looking good all week. I've been doing a lot of practice, feeling pretty good at Nords, but yeah, just one silly mistake and getting turned. Apologies to Mark, I sent it too hard on him, and it was down the back for a while there, but just kind of kept putting in laps and trying to stay out of traffic, and managed to put in second, only just.
Yeah, it was a very tough fight back to second place there, but you know, it all came down to the strategy game at the end of the day. This is a tough track, and it certainly has a lot of hidden pitfalls that really come to the fore when drivers are giving it their maximum around here.
Yeah, I'd spent a bit of time during the week trying to find those little tenths here and there, and I found a few secret ones that I think other people might have missed, but kind of didn't help with all the off tracks, and towards the end of my tyres dropping off. Had to double stint them, so they were hurting a bit, but managed to pit early a couple of times to avoid sitting behind a couple of people battling and losing time to them, so come out on top in that regard.
Yeah, certainly did. And great haul of championship points to boot. Very good recovery from you, Brad. Floor is yours. If there's anyone you would like to thank for your performance, now is the time.
Just all the boys at Revolutionary Racing. Pretty tight group there. Always helping each other along. So shout out to them. Highly recommend if you're looking for a team. Yeah, on to the next one.
The next one, indeed. Thanks very much, Brad.
See you.
Brad Coates, to end things off there. Scott, sorry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, well, things are now off and on a roll. That takes us out of Nurburgring, but we are not quite done from the Nurburgring for Premier Endurance League action. The next round will be coming to you live on Saturday, the 10th of May from 7 to 45 p.m. We're out of that blooming daylight savings time these days, Reese, and we're on to the regular stuff. Australian Eastern Standard Time in just a few weeks' time for the next round of the Game of Gear Direct GT3 Open Series. So all the action that you saw from the Nurburgring was just a taste tester, because in a couple of weeks we'll be back to bring effectively the second half of the Premier Endurance League, which I kind of like having, you know, calendars match up. We go, okay, this is what we kind of should be expecting this from this series. What do we think we're going to actually get, and let's sort of double down from there.
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait to see how things turn out on the 10th of May. And yeah, bring it on indeed. If this race was anything to go by, the Open Series is going to be even more. So yeah, mark that date in your calendars and tune in.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, after 2 hours of racing action here tonight, Rue Koistra stood atop the pile. It was the Acuras who took dominance, but not by much. The field was mixed up. What will we see on the 10th of May? You'll have to tune back in to find out. On behalf of the series, on behalf of our sponsors, our primary sponsor in Dash Off-Road, we'd say a big, big thank you to those guys. Cannot do it without them. And we'll see you all again next time when we go racing for another GT3 All-Star.